Lawyers. Now, Hangin with Hester and Hanny with Jacob Hester and Charles Hanagriff. Hester and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and 1130 The Tiger. Alongside Jacob Hester, here's Charles Hanagriff.
Good afternoon and welcome into Hanging with Hester and Hanny, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. If you're listening along with us up in the Shreveport area, 1130 The Tiger. If you're watching on CST or on our YouTube channel, 104.5 ESPN, go and subscribe, please. We appreciate it. Get the previous interviews on the Hanging with Hester and Hanny page. I'm Charles Hanagriff. Jacob Hester has the day off. Sitting in for him here in the first part of the show, Mike Scarborough from TigerBait.com. How you doing, Mike?
I'm good. Glad to be with you guys.
Well, you know, it's that time of year where you can actually get out and start to cover practices and stuff like that.
No,
so after all the shutdown, it's
it's like last week I went to a Strum. I was at Woodlawn Monday. Got plans to go to some other schools, and it's like I'm loving it. Just getting out of the house.
Yes,
even though it's 105-degree heating index, I love it.
Right. We're going to talk with Mike about the start of LSU real actual camp this week, and we'll get his thoughts on a number of things. Plus, we'll do a little bit of recruiting. Henry Hayes will be with us in about 15 minutes. Hayes on hoops, two big upsets in the NBA in the first round first games of series yesterday. Both number one seeds fell. Our number two today, Connor O'Gara from Saturday Down South will be with us. Dr. Stephen Etheridge will be talking about protocols as the students come back into LSU and get ready for class on Monday. Luke Johnson from the New Orleans Advocate will be with us in the 2 o'clock hour. We'll talk Saints with him. Bo Bishop from Bishop and Laurinaitis in Cleveland will be with us in the 2 o'clock hour today. Big Ten still trying to play football. And so we'll talk with him. He is right in the heart of that in Ohio because the secession of the Big Ten has still maybe got a little bit of life. So a lot planned for you here today. We're glad that you're with us. We start, unfortunately, with a story that broke this morning in USA Today that has drawn some response from LSU. The story that two former LSU students say that they were raped by Derrius Guice, who was with the Washington football team until just recently. This stemmed from an incident, a pair of incidents that happened, according to the former LSU students, back in 2016. The women told USA Today that Guice assaulted them in their own apartments following nights of heavy drinking. Furthermore, the women have said that they shared their allegations with multiple people at LSU, including coaches, athletic administrators, and a nurse. And they said that the school failed to investigate and didn't interview them or any potential witnesses. Guice was released about a little under 2 weeks ago after he was arrested on 3 separate domestic violence charges in Virginia. The response to this came both from Guice's lawyer, Peter Greenspun, who said, at no time were allegations of physical or sexual assault brought against Darius during his years at LSU. To bring up such assertions only after the Virginia charges were initiated certainly calls into question the credibility, nature, and timing of what is being alleged years later. LSU, in a statement released earlier this morning, said, LSU and LSU Athletics take all accusations of sexual assault with the utmost seriousness. Formal complaints are promptly and fully investigated, and the rights and privacy of students are protected as stipulated by the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Acts. Complainants are strongly encouraged to report the offense to law enforcement and are provided information on health care, counseling, and supportive measures available. So this is where we are. You have two former students that have alleged that this happened. I'm sure soon-to-be defendant that says that they didn't, and a school that says that all of those accusations are taken with the utmost seriousness. No doubt an investigation is going to be launched into which side of this is telling the truth, and I'm not going to engage in any wild speculation. I don't know. I wasn't there. I read the story like everybody else. I do know this. It's multiple now accusers on Guice, which lends a little, in my opinion, lends a little bit more credibility to it. This is not one random instance. Now it's multiple instances. Doesn't mean he's guilty, but it does certainly raise that question of particular distress in this thing is that if this was reported to LSU and this happened in the first half of 2016, that the university did not take the allegations seriously or did not act upon them. I would think that an investigation into that would be able to uncover whether it was reported and whether LSU took the appropriate actions or not due to their records. So those questions have to be answered. For now, that's the statements of the lawyer and the statements of the school. I got no tolerance for any kind of assault on women, nor do I have any kind of sympathy for a false accuser. So, like I said, I'm not saying who's right or who's wrong at this point. You have two sides of this story, and it's got to be investigated, and it's got to be investigated to the full extent. This is a very, very serious series of charges against Guice, and they have to be investigated promptly. And if there is wrongdoing or if LSU didn't take the proper steps, then the appropriate punishments have to come down. It's not this is not a small story. This is potentially a huge story if the proper steps weren't taken. For now, that's a statement from the complainants. That's a statement from the lawyer, and that's a statement from LSU, and we'll continue to follow it. But like I said, I'm not gonna jump to conclusions one way or the other. But it's a very, very serious series of charges now against Darius Guice, and so we'll follow that story and see what happens. What happens with it? There's also I do want to make mention of one quote that came from an anonymous former player. In regards to Ed Ogeron, that said he responded that when this former player had a girlfriend, and that girlfriend was one of the complainants in this thing, that he said, well, all girlfriends, they sleep with other guys. In other words, don't worry about it. That seems taken particularly out of context to me. It seems out of context. It seems out of character for a coach to say that. The quote is not. This is not from the victim. This is from the boyfriend, who was apparently a player on the team, according to this. Without any context to that, that just doesn't sound right to me. Doesn't sound like something that Ogeron would say. That's my opinion. But again, the rest of this is very serious stuff, and we'll see what happens moving forward. We'll see what the next step in the investigation is. All right, so
that's a mess.
It's an awful story to wake up to and read, but it's got to be investigated. If you have these charges that are this serious, then they simply have to be followed up on. And if any of these things happen, there have to be consequences for that. There have to be consequences for the person that did it. There have to be consequences for the people that didn't follow the protocols that you're required to do when something of this nature is reported. And again, you also have to take into account the statements of the complainants, who, by their own admission, were very drunk on the night that this happened. So the easiest thing to do at this point would be to say, I believe this side, or I believe that side, and I'm not going to do that here today. I'm going to let this play out. Absolutely take it seriously, and we'll see what the investigation overturns. Because if I try to speculate on what may or may not have happened, that's all I'm doing, is speculating.
Wait, if you're a one of those people involved when those students reported, and whether it was the nurse or whatever, and they make those claims, I'm sure there's protocols and a checklist.
Absolutely.
Do you want to do this? Do you want us to call the laws? Yeah,
they're laws that they have to follow, and there's a lot of questions that have to be asked. So, unfortunately, that story is right up at the top. It's been trending all morning. It's at the top of most of the sports sites that are going right now, and it's something that all the involved parties are going to have to follow up on. So that's if you missed the story earlier this morning, that's what's out in regards to Derrius Guice. We are brought to you by Richards Honda, home of the warm and fuzzy feeling. Again, Jacob Hester is out today. He will be back tomorrow, but we got lots to get to today. We will do some practice stuff with Mike here in a minute, and also Henry Hayes on the first day of the NBA. I want to say hello to Josh Ward, our audio producer today, to Paul O'Neill, our video producer, and to Playboy Marty, who is now ready to get back into it with the NBA because he doesn't fool with game one. So now we're on to game two, so you can play along now as they'll get going here in about 25 minutes. This is Hanging with Hester and Hanny, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hanging with Hester and Hanny.
Associated Grocers is now adding to their team. Come and join the team at Associated Grocers. Multiple opportunities available, from the warehouse, administrative, and maintenance to tractor trailer drivers. Competitive compensation, meaningful benefits, and the opportunity for growth. For you tractor trailer drivers, you're guaranteed 40 hours per week with the potential for paid overtime, clean vehicles and trailers, and your home nights. This is a fast-paced environment, great starting pay with increases in as few as 90 days and at the 1 year mark. A family environment, teamwork, yearly increases, and safety awards have been given to Associated Grocers many, many times. Paid time off, sick leave, 401k, meaningful benefits, and a flex spending account. If you are interested in joining the Associated Grocers team, you can log in right now at agbr.com. That's agbr.com.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Oh, hey, what's up? It's Big V and Bubba, 100.7 The Tiger Morning Show. We'd love for you to join us every weekday, 4 a.m. till 9 a.m.
Yeah, everything you want in a show. Country music. We got laughs. We got celebrity in-studio guests. We just need you.
Join us every weekday morning, 4 a.m. to 9 a.m., right where it all started.
That's right. Louisiana's country station, 100.7 The Tiger.
Here at the Big Squeezy, we continue to serve the Baton Rouge and Southeast Louisiana areas during these troubling times. We are dedicated to providing you healthy food items to help you live your best life. From our cold-pressed juices to our delicious smoothies, let the Big Squeezy keep you going. Stay active, stay happy, and let us help you stay healthy. Visit us at our locations and also inside of Alexander's and the Thurns grocery stores or online at thebigsqueezy.com.
This isn't just another day. It's so much more. Kelly's life was put on hold when her auctioneer primary care doctor discovered a rare blood disorder. Her doctor connected her to an auctioneer care team of cancer, heart, and kidney specialists. With multiple primary care locations around Baton Rouge, same-day appointments, and online scheduling, we're relentless about keeping you healthy. Auctioneer Baton Rouge, innovating healthcare for Kelly.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is a local bank with a straightforward philosophy.
It's about doing the right thing for our customers.
Participating in our community with annual local fundraisers. Offering individual attention in a modern banking atmosphere with a trusted local company. Gulf Coast Bank invested in technology with a local touch, giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime.
We're building relationships through personal service as the bank that cares about you.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Are you a licensed contractor? There's lots of good contractors in Louisiana doing work the right way, but unfortunately, too many unlicensed contractors are working outside the licensing requirements. Working as a contractor in Louisiana requires a license for the company doing the work. The Louisiana State Licensing Board for Contractors wants to help you get licensed to allow you to conduct work legally. It's not difficult to get the license. We can help you. Go to lacontractor.org for more information. License.
Coming up on Thursday's Off the Bench, the latest from padded practice 2 of Saints camp, a recap of the NBA playoff action. Chef Michael Johnson answers all your Munchies questions, and Chad Durbin breaks down the MLB. Off the Bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
Hangin' with Hester and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and 1130 The Tiger.
We're brought to you by Richards Honda, home of the warm and fuzzy feeling. Charles Hanagriff, Mike Scarborough with us here at the first part of the show, and Jacob Hester has the day off. First 2 days of the NBA playoffs went down with some big surprises, including the number one seed on both sides losing. Joining us now, Henry Hayes. Hayes on Hoops to get a little bit of reaction to that. Henry, good afternoon. How are you?
Hanny, good to be with you. Mike?
Henry, watching yesterday, Orlando lead pretty much from wire to wire against Milwaukee. And then the last game of the day, Portland, who withstood the big Laker run to come back and make some big plays and win that game in the fourth quarter yesterday. We just thought it was going to be an unusual set of NBA playoffs. We got a very stark evidence of that in the very first game.
We sure do, Charlie. I mean, look, it's never happened, right? This is league historic that both of your one seeds lose their opener. That's all you need to know. Look, there's no home court advantage. It's just been such a topsy-turvy time. Although, look, we tip our hats to the league and the players for even getting this far, right? I mean, you and I talked on your show, Charlie, in March and April. Will there be? Won't there be? And there was a lot of doubters and a lot of skeptics. The NBA has done a bang-up job in building and maintaining that bubble, and so now they're in the playoffs and. We could talk about the basketball, but yeah, these are unprecedented things that are happening when both your one seeds go down.
Watching Magic and Bucks, and we were on the air, so I didn't watch the game intently, but I was very aware of what was going on. It looked like Orlando just came out and seized the game from the beginning. They had a little bit more intensity. They shot the ball very well from the floor. And the Bucks just weren't as good as they usually are defensively. This is one of, if not the top defensive teams in the league. But when I watched Lakers Blazers, I don't know how you feel, Henry. I felt like the Blazers were the better team. I thought the Magic caught the Bucks sleeping, and I'll be very surprised if they win this series. But after I watched Lakers Blazers, at this point, I'm not going as far as Charles Barkley and saying the Blazers are going to sweep, but they look to me like the better overall team.
Well, if you watched that game last night, you could certainly make that argument. I think the Lakers at times get a little bit too cool for school in terms of their effort. Look, they're 3-5 in the 8 play-in games, which, a lot of folks wrote that off as, listen, they're the one seed. There's not a lot of motivation. They don't want to get some of their guys hurt. I think it's an interesting kind of juxtapose, Charlie, when you take LeBron, who is ball dominant and is clearly the alpha, and then you look and watch how they're trying to morph in Anthony Davis, which I've watched most of their games this year, and it's never been, I guess how I would describe, a beautiful thing to watch. In other words, Davis has gone off for some really good games at times, and then other times he'll drift, and you say, is he on the court? And this is supposed to be a top 3 player in the league, so the pairing of those two hasn't been great. It's been good at times, but I think you really shine the light on in these kind of games when Portland got up on them double digits really early. And props to Terry Stotts and his coaches, Charlie, because they knew exactly what they wanted to do from a game planning standpoint. You make LeBron a distributor, not a scorer, and then you force Davis into posting 15 feet from the basket, and he's prone to shoot a lot of bad shots. And so, the formula was there. I'd be surprised if you don't get LA's best effort in Game 2. But, and look, Frank Vogel's on the clock too, Charlie, because clearly if this doesn't go right, he's gone.
And I may look like an idiot 4 games from now if the Lakers come back and win 4 straight, but just watch. I thought I put this in second class yesterday. I said, you've got the guy that's playing the best in the world right now. Nobody's played better than Damian Lillard since they came back into the bubble against the number 1 seed. So you've got an opportunity here for a heck of a game. But after I watched it, it's like, man, it's not just Lillard. Portland's got a better overall group than the Lakers do right now. In regards to Davis, and I thought Shaquille was kind of pointed in his criticism of him after the game last night. He was 8 of 24 from the floor. He got 12 of his 28 points at the free throw line. And if you put his shot chart up, it's pretty evident. In the first half, he was going to the goal. He was getting touches in the paint. He was getting to the free throw line. And in the second half, he settled for jump shots and drifted and was 0 for 5 from 3-point range. When he gets like that, when he doesn't want to mix it up, if you will, then if he's not shooting the ball well, there's not a whole lot. There's not a whole lot there.
Well, and there are fair questions, Charlie, among the coaches and scouts and team officials I speak with, which is to say, can he be your best player, and can you win a championship with him? Because he hasn't shown it yet. We all know here in South Louisiana, they had one of the best kind of improbable playoff series in a long time when they swept the Portland Trailblazers. And he was really, really good in that series. Now, Drew Holiday also played out of his mind in that series. But other than that, we haven't seen him have this kind of success on this stage. So he's at an interesting point in his career, Charlie, where I believe this is kind of a left-right turn type of deal. And the problem with that is LeBron's not going to come off being ball dominant and controlling the show. So he's going to have to kind of figure out how to get his – it's pretty easy with him, though. If he sits on the block and posts his guy within 5 feet of the basket, he's really, really hard to stop. So we'll see if the Lakers can adjust.
All right, I want to get to a couple more topics here. First of all, the NBA draft lottery is tomorrow night. The Pels are the longest of long shots. Their odds at the number 1 pick are 1.2%, but it's not the star-studded draft of a year ago. In fact, if you put all of the players in this year's draft into last year's draft, I'm not sure any of them even go in the top 5. You can kind of speak to that. But what's the most intriguing piece of the lottery tomorrow night for you?
Boy, you just said it. I mean, I don't know. Time will tell, Charlie, but I don't know that we've had a draft this light on potential franchise players in, it's been a long time. I'm going to say many, many years. Anthony Bennett goes first in the draft several years ago. That comes to mind. Clearly that was a bust and a miss. But, the players getting a lot younger. This time around we're going to have more international, which means you better hit that scouting report right. And then you got guys like LaMelo Ball, who talk about a wild card, Charlie. I mean, he's risen in the draft rankings quickly, but so many unknowns with him too in terms of who he's played against, maturity, all those things. So a lot of unknown. Don't be surprised. Meaning the salary cap's going to come out for next year too, and it's going to be lower because league revenue is down. So don't be surprised if some teams trade out of the first round, Charlie, which is like guaranteed slotting, and the fact that there's not a ton of talent in the draft this year. So it's going to be a wild draft to cap a wild year in the league.
I'll tell you what intrigues me. It's not a perfect comparison, but the year that the San Antonio Spurs won the draft lottery and took Tim Duncan was the year that David Robinson missed virtually the entire year. The only reason that the Spurs were in that position was because Robinson was out the entire time. Before that, they were a really good team. The Golden State Warriors have a tie for the top odds at the number 1 pick. The only reason that they're in that position is because Klay Thompson missed the entire season, Steph Curry missed most of the season, and Draymond Green missed some of the season. And, oh, by the way, Kevin Durant left. So you bring all those people back, and whatever they would decide to do with a number 1 pick, you're talking about a team that could go from the first pick in the draft to a serious contender in the Western Conference with just one move.
Yeah, you talk about crazy fortunes for a franchise, Charlie. I mean, both those guys, Steph and Klay Thompson out the year, and just, they're not even in Orlando. You think of Steve Kerr and his group being home, which is just strange to think of. A lot of people have talked about Adam Silver looking at draft reform, Charlie. So, you're not incented to be really, really bad. I wouldn't be surprised if they mess around with that. But they've gotten some really good luck, and clearly the Pelicans did too when they pulled the Zion ball. So I'll tell you what, it does make for good TV, which the NBA loves that content. But we're going to see how the ping pong balls bounce tomorrow night.
Last thing for you, the combine, obviously, and all of the pre-draft prep got canceled this year. The league is now looking into doing a virtual combine. Tell me how this works and if the league can pull this off the way they'd like to.
So there are going to be spots around the country regionally located, like, for instance, the Southeast. They're going to have a spot like in Atlanta or a Birmingham or a city in the South where the players can go to mitigate the travel. And then the teams will have virtual connection in terms of, seeing them and working them out and measuring them and all that good stuff. As opposed to having one central, it's usually in Chicago, Charlie, which they changed. So they're trying to spread out the location. Still, most of it's going to be virtual in terms of club representatives, so that's going to be a challenge. But for a local guy like a Skylar Mays, for us here in Baton Rouge, that's what you want. You want to be seen, and you want to show clubs, what you're capable of, etc. So it's not great, but it's better than nothing.
Henry, we appreciate it. We'll be checking in with you as the playoffs continue and resume here in about 10 minutes. Thanks a lot. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, Charlie.
All right. Henry Hayes on Hoops. We come back, Mike Scarborough with us. We'll do some LSU football as we get into the first full week of real camp and the students coming back to campus. That's next. Hangin' with Hester and Hanny, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hangin' with Hester and Hanny. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
This is a house call. This is a follow-up appointment. This is a diabetes checkup. This isn't just more convenient care, it's more advanced care. This is innovating healthcare at Louisiana's #1 hospital, Auctioner.
If I built a van, it would do more than haul.
It would carry my entire business. I'd make it available in dozens, make not thousands of configurations.
It would keep an eye on my fleet.
And an eye out for danger.
If I built a van, I'd make it available in diesel and gas. And I'd build it right here in South Carolina.
Introducing the all-new Sprinter, starting at $33,790. Built in the USA. Mercedes-Benz. Vans. Born to run.
Serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
Service Master Elite create clean, disinfected work environments. As a local business, we take pride in serving the New Orleans and Baton Rouge areas. Our cleaning protocols follow CDC and OSHA standards for healthcare settings, offices, senior living, restaurants, and industrial plants. Contact Service Master Elite to get your operation ready for reopening with germ disinfection cleaning. Service Master Elite, the trusted choice in professional cleaning since 1996.
To all of our heroes working on the front lines of this COVID-19 pandemic, your bravery and selflessness represent the very best of us, and we want to say thank you. I'm asking everyone around the state to join me in celebrating the heroism of our healthcare professionals on the 19th of every month at 1900 hours, that's 7 p.m. Write a note of appreciation, make plans to donate to charitable organizations, or say a prayer. To learn more, visit 19thanks.org. Thank you, and God bless.
At All-Star Toyota, you get it all. If you're in the market for an all-new Toyota vehicle, come see our friendly and knowledgeable sales team at All-Star Toyota. Located in Baton Rouge at the corner of Airline and Goodwood, we've been serving our community since 2005 by offering a large selection of new Toyota cars, trucks, and SUVs. Get behind the wheel of your dream car and take a test drive at All-Star Toyota today.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Wednesday's Hump Day AFR presented by Pluckers. Russ Mitchell reacts to the SEC schedule, and the Saints are back on the practice field. We'll have a practice report. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hangin' with Hester and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and 1130 The Tiger.
We're brought to you by Richard's Honda, the home of the warm and fuzzy feeling. Jacob is out today. Charles Hanagriff, Mike Scarborough with us here at the beginning of the show. Mike, you've been busy here even during the shutdown. I want to talk about one of the projects that you did that the reviews on it were just great, and that was the commitment video that Walker Howard put together. And if you haven't seen it, it was just exceptionally well done. How did that project come about?
Well, it was just, of course, I had never gone out and seen, a ninth grader play football, but I did as soon as I saw Walker Howard's 8th grade tape, and I made a beeline to a Turlings game, and I started covering him from the get-go, and all of a sudden we started getting word that he was ready to end it, and he had a conversation with Ed Orgeron, so let's make a commitment video. Made my way to Lafayette on a Thursday, the day before, and was going to film just some footage of him and maybe him talk about his commitment. And after STM had a practice, once it was not soon after they were able to start doing it in June, we went to the house and I set up in the kitchen and Walker says, goes take a shower, and he comes out of the shower and he goes, I really want this. He had the idea. He had the whole thing in his head. I want to go here and this is what I want to do. And he had it all mapped out. He wrote it all out in his own words. That was entirely him. It was just, I was blown away by it. And, and of course, everybody in Lafayette that knows Jamie and the family and of course, the mom just was loved by everybody. So it was just, it was a fun thing to do. It was fun, but it was also heartfelt, and Walker was very pivotal in it. And so, the next day the news broke. We worked all night till like 5 a.m. putting that together, and I was worried because I was the one that shot all the footage. I'm not exactly a pro, but I had a Emmy Award winning editor.
Yeah,
actually, is one. Larry Aycock's son, Kaysen, is a multi-Emmy Award winner, and so I gave him my SD card with everything I shot, and he did the whole thing with the black and white, turning a color at the grave site, and it came out fantastic. And but Walker, it was entirely his idea at the last minute at like 4:00, and we finished at 6.
Yeah. Well, it came out fantastic, and everybody that saw it, it was a really moving piece. Now, you've been able to get out and go and see a number of high schools practice here. So now that we're back and everybody's going, I know it's going to be a while before they play, but you've been able to see. Tell me about some of the people that you've seen.
Yeah, last Thursday I went out to Estruma and I wanted to see Le'Veon Moss. They did some 7-on-7 where the coaches, they picked teams and did rock, paper, scissors and got out there and got to play for a half before lightning hit out there and they went inside. But I'm very impressed with him. You're talking about a 6 foot, 200-pound running back. Of course, has LSU offered, Georgia, Alabama, A&M. Everybody's offered him, and I was impressed with. That was the first time I've been to Struma in forever and ever. Blown away by their new facilities, the new football stadium. I don't know. Have you been out there?
Not the new one. I did games at the old facility many years ago.
Yeah,
Been a long time.
I mean, other than Woodlawn, there isn't a public school in Baton Rouge in the city that has better facilities than Estruma. And their coaching staff, Coach Grady, and those guys are great. But got a good look at him. Did an interview with him. You can still find that on the front page of Tiger Bait. But he's going to be special. Didn't get a feeling of where he might be leaning, but obviously, and I don't think he's there was some rumors early in the summer that he might transfer to Walker because his mom moved out there and he's commuting in every day. But he stuck with the team and good for them. I think Estruma as a school is happy to have him, and that'll bring them some notoriety and people that go out to watch them play. Yeah, he's special. 7-on-7, watching him at defensive back, the closing speed. He's got size. Of course, you've got him and H.N. at Jennings, who I went and saw last season. 2 Louisiana running backs for the class of 22 with offers.
Got to be strange to cover a recruiting summer with no camps and now a delayed high school season here. In some places, no high school season at all. But in some places, like Tennessee and Ohio, an on-time football season. I only bring up all these states because LSU's recruiting everywhere. So you got to keep an eye on everything. This has got to be – you've been covering recruiting a long time, man. This has got to be the strangest summer ever, right?
Yeah, because I'm sitting here, looking at every May the LHSA will load up all the schedules, and I make a template of where I'm planning on going each week very early and the possible games each week. Particularly September is always busy, Thursday, Friday games. And so now you're looking at what states are playing, which ones aren't. I think, are we going to look back 2 or 3 years from now at the rankings of these players in this class and say how awful, how it just was, because there was no camps, because there was no spring evaluation period, who got lost in the cracks. I think there's going to be some mid-major schools that ended up with some real prizes because they were unable to go to a football camp and compete. Look at the LSU football camp every summer, particularly the last few. That is a pivotal place where defensive backs and receivers can go one-on-one and they can show what they can do. I keep thinking about Matthew Langlois, who just committed to Kansas State from Catholic Point Capee. What might have happened? Might he have gotten an LSU offer had he been able to go up against a Brian Thomas or a Chris Hilton at camp and show what he could do? But now he's committed to Kansas State. Is there still a possibility that if the season does happen and Corey Raymond, is supposedly still talking to him, can he earn an offer? But there's so many guys like that. Shield Taylor at Alexandria committed to Stanford. I know he was sending in video to the staffs everywhere, of his workouts, but that's a whole different thing from actually being in the flesh at camp.
What I was wondering about as well, I think for the seniors, the rising seniors this year, I think that they pretty much have known for a while. It's the kid that went to camp as either an 8th grader or a freshman and came back the following year and has undergone a massive body transformation.
Right.
And a lot of times you'll hear when kids commit, they'll say, oh, yeah, they started recruiting me when I was a freshman. The opportunity to see those kids, the kid that was a skinny, short 13-year-old that became, as a 14 or 15-year-old, a really recruitable athlete, those are the ones that maybe schools aren't getting in on as early because they're not seeing them at camp this summer.
Yep, and so there's going to be a mad rush.
Yes.
But yeah, you're right. The 21 class was already a little bit baked, but I think look, one thing we talked about for the class of 21, that there's no offensive lineman in the state of Louisiana. Might there have been someone who came to camp from somewhere that might have been someone to look at, that they would have said, we want to continue to watch this kid that's come up in football season, and now you don't have that. But I do think for the next several recruiting cycles, and I wonder if years from now we're going to look back and say, boy, that and then just the states that are choosing not to play high school football. If you're a regional or a national recruiting analyst at a service, how are you going to level the playing field for the kids that aren't playing? And of course, everybody's going to convene on the states where they are playing football and evaluate those kids. There's going to be some unfairness to it.
I have no doubt that when we look back on this entire years from now, there's going to be plenty of things that we go, wow, the landscape changed. That was so different. Nothing was normal in this year.
And then there might also but there's can be some positives from it. I keep wondering, are we going to look back and they're going to say, you know what, some things that they liked about it, some things that that they want to use going forward that are of a benefit.
Give me an example.
Well,
of something.
I was just kind of joking around last night, and someone said it. I'm like, the LHSA gets cranked up the first week in October. Might they say, boy, we kind of like starting the season late. First of all, you beat the heat. Certainly you have to navigate the Superdome and your championships. But might that schedule get altered a little bit? And
maybe not all the way back to October, but You're saying move it back maybe 2 weeks in September or something like that.
I don't know, but
at least you get an opportunity to see it and how it works.
Yeah,
you might think that that's a better way to go.
Yeah,
I wonder how many of the meetings that we used to do in person will be on Zoom the day that there are no restrictions anymore.
Oh yeah, I'm amazed by the Zoom thing is just there for good. But I think there's going to be next convention next year, and let's hope we get through COVID and everything gets back to normal. I wonder if there's going to be some things they adopt that they learn from this.
It's very, very good possibility. Get Mike's thoughts on the beginning of camp and some of the position battles when we come back. This is Hangin' with Hester and Hanny, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hangin' with Hester and Hanny.
Louisiana one call 811, because if you're doing any property improvements, you got to call 811. Why? Well, because it's the law. We could stop right there, but let me give you some other good reasons to dial 811. If you're doing any property improvements that involve you digging, whether you're planting some landscaping, whether you're putting in a fence, or you're adding another building on your property, maybe you're finally putting in that swimming pool, you got to call 811, because there's so many lines in this part of the country that it's so shallow. And you could hit them. And if you do that, you're going to have problems, either for yourself or your neighbors. Don't be the guy that knocks out your neighbor's power. Don't be the guy that ends up flooding your own backyard. Call 811. All you have to do is give the operator your address, and then within 2 days, they'll send somebody out to mark all the buried lines on your property. They'll color code them so you know what's buried where, and that way you or your contractor can avoid them. It's simple to do. It's free of charge, and it's the law. So call 811 and do it 2 days before you dig.
We opened up the playbook and expanded our coverage. Listen daily in high definition on 98.1 HD2. We are 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Le posso offrire un caffè? Andiamo insieme da me, non c'è.
Call Mr. Electric today for electrical repairs, upgrades, and installations.
If I built a van, it would do more than haul.
It would carry my entire business. I'd make it available in dozens, make not thousands of configurations.
It would keep an eye on my fleet.
And an eye out for danger.
If I built a van, I'd make it available in diesel and gas. And I'd build it right here in South Carolina.
Introducing the all-new Sprinter, starting at $33,790. Built in the USA. Mercedes-Benz. Vans. Born to run.
This isn't just another day. It's so much more. Kelly's life was put on hold when her auctioneer primary care doctor discovered a rare blood disorder. Her doctor connected her to an auctioneer care team of cancer, heart, and kidney specialists. With multiple primary care locations around Baton Rouge, same-day appointments, and online scheduling, we're relentless about keeping you healthy. Ochsner Baton Rouge, innovating healthcare for Kelly.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Are you a licensed contractor? There's lots of good contractors in Louisiana doing work the right way, but unfortunately, too many unlicensed contractors are working outside the licensing requirements. Working as a contractor in Louisiana requires a license for the company doing the work. The Louisiana State Licensing Board for Contractors wants to help you get licensed to allow you to conduct work legally. It's not difficult to get the license. We can help you. Go to lacontractor.org for more information. Licensed contractors, it's the law.
At Cornell Toyota in Opelousas, you can get into a new Highlander for $4,000 off MSRP. Yes, $4,000 off MSRP, and we have many in stock. So come on down to Happy Town.
It's a Wednesday edition of Game Time with Jimmy Ott and Ben Mintz. The guys are live from Snow's Seafood and Steak over in Gonzales. Come out from 6 to 8 p.m. and say hello or listen here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hangin' with Hester and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and 1130 The Tiger.
Jacob Hester with the day off today. He'll be back tomorrow. Mike Scarborough with us here in the first hour. Coming up in hour number 2, Con O'Gara from Saturday Down South. Luke Johnson from NOLA, New Orleans Advocate, covering the Saints. He'll be with us in the 2 o'clock hour. And Bo Bishop from Bishop and Laurinaitis in Cleveland. He's going to get us up to speed on the Big Ten still trying to play, at least some of the Big Ten. Mike, we could talk football for a minute, the LSU football part of it. When you go to the first week in camp, usually it's a little bit less time than what they've got to the opener. But what position battles are you watching? What the burning questions going into camp?
I mean, the biggie obviously is, for me, is number 2 quarterback Max Johnson, TJ Finley. You know, he had several practices in spring before it got canceled, and but a lot of people were saying that Max was already ahead. Orgeron singled him out and talked about a big run he had, and yesterday's meet with the media. I like that one. On the offensive line, some of the names that are coming out there, I like that he's saying that Rosenthal looks to be where he needs to be, but I'm kind of like, is Thomas Perry a guy? I haven't heard, he's not talking about him. Obviously there's some guys on the offensive line, and you and I talked about it before the show, who's coming in too heavy and the issues there and having to move guys around and how much can they shed some weight before they even get to September 26th.
I think for the big guys, it was probably tougher during the shutdown. For instance, they already made one move. Chasen Hines came back in at 350 pounds. Well, he at one point going into spring, you kind of felt like he had the lead at center. Well, you can't play center at 350 pounds, but you can play guard, and so they moved him there. And this, when they brought in Liam Shanahan, then that became another guy who had some experience, was an upperclassman. He's obviously stepping up in class an awful lot from the Ivy League to the SEC, but that was one move. I wonder, after Orgeron told us yesterday that Tyler Shelvin's in at 370 pounds, how many snaps they can we switch to the defensive side, how many snaps you can realistically hope to get out of him.
Yeah, seeing we're getting that 3-minute video package from LSU at the end of each day that we're all using. We're not allowed out there, but the thing about Tyler is he always looks spry even at his baddest weight. But like you said, how many plays can he actually give you at that weight, and then how much can he shed in the next 6 weeks?
he played. We saw him when he got here. He was over 370 pounds. I'm talking about when he first arrived on campus, and it took him a long time to get into shape. But when he did, he played at about 345 pounds. He played really well. Well, we know the difference between 370 and 345 for him. It's going to be a lot of snaps, and it's going to really, really hurt his effectiveness. Just in the last couple of days, the Tigers lose Kerry Vincent, decided to lead the program. So between he and Neil Farrell, that's two players that I counted on for a lot of snaps. Vincent especially, I considered him a starter. So what effect do you think it has on the LSU defense?
Well, I mean, look, that's another thing. Look, I believe you take it legit that he was worried about COVID, but I also think there's a lot of depth there. There's a lot of new players that can fill in that spot. You know, what is going to be the role? How's the nickel played? You got some guys that coming up that are a bigger size than Kerry. Certainly he's got the speed. I mean, we knew last November, December that he was talking about going out early and had to get talked back to come back. But you don't want to lose a player like that. Certainly don't want to lose. I have Neil Farrell opt out, but he decided to do that. But you know, whether it's Jay Ward or Flott and Jones, the freshman, I mean, they've got some players there.
Flott in the slot. That's our new catch. We'll see. I thought that Eli Ricks was going to really push for early playing time on the outside to start with. Now I got to believe that he'll have every opportunity to step in there and start. So you see that's a high impact new face. Jabril Cox, another high impact new face on the interior of that defense. Those are guys that without the spring, which they wouldn't have been able to. Well, Ricks was here in the spring, but he was hurt, and in the spring got canceled, of course. They get this extra time to kind of indoctrinate themselves into the LSU practices, to the, I don't want to say the culture because that's altogether different. The system, I guess, would be the best word. Benefiting guys like that, I think, and not to mention Jacoby Stevens, who I think they're going to move kind of all over the place.
And is it when we find out who gets 18?
They haven't said anything yet about timetable.
Is that 100% for Jacoby?
No, I don't think so.
No,
no. I'm going. My wild card pick for that was Chris Curry. I could be wrong, but I'm going.
I would like that.
I'm going out on a little bit of a limb here. They haven't told us when that.
And if you were to put your starting lineup at running back right now, you'd have Curry number one.
I would. I would.
People still aren't talking about him even after the way he ended last season.
No, and believe me, a week before the SEC championship game last year, if you'd have told me that Chris Curry was going to transfer in the offseason, I said, well, okay, I get it. And now you go from there to big performance, and then as a starter. I think he's come a long, long way as a player.
That's the Kevin Falk factor. I'm convinced of it.
Well, you've known Kevin a long time, and you knew the impact that he was going to have on
but I think look at the impact that he had on Clyde.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities.
Yeah, and I mean, and he believes in hard work, and he believes in a guy that obviously holds on to the ball, and I think Chris Curry got rewarded, and but yeah, we're still. The shiny objects, Emory, Tyrion Davis-Price, and of course Tyrion loves where where he's slotted. But I think LSU's running back group is going to be fantastic, and Orgeron even singled out the freshman yesterday.
Yeah, I think they're all going to play, and that includes the freshman Bravo. I think that he could run. Okay, I mean we were talking about the top end speed here. So yeah, there's a role for all of them, and I'm still a believer in John Emory. I thought that last year he would eventually become the starter. Couldn't have been more wrong on that. But a lot of times that change from that first year to that second year makes all the difference. Makes all the difference in the world. But first game, against Mississippi State, I think Curry probably takes the first.
And I think another part of it too is because we didn't get a full spring, we didn't get a spring game, and a lot of this stuff is we didn't get to see it. But others, we were hearing good things about B.J. Ojolari. We've seen everybody's drooling over Gilbert right now at tight end. Devonta Lee is a guy, I just kind of wish he would have been on the defense side of the ball day one when he arrived on campus. Is he a guy that can take to that linebacker spot? You could see him turning, as he sat at LSU, you could see him turning into a linebacker. He kept getting bigger and heavier, and I thought all along his best position was on defense coming out of A-Meet. McClendon on defense. A lot of these guys that have made position changes, I want to see how they progress.
LSU's had some success moving offensive guys to defense before. Jacoby Stevens was an offensive guy once. Devin White was an offensive guy once, and they decided to move over on the other side. And
who was the last tight end to make a huge impact at defensive end after the move?
Marcus Spears is the first one that always comes to mind. He was a tight end for a short period of time.
But who was – I always discounted that one because he really wasn't there long.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't.
I got to go back to Kyle Kipps.
Kyle Kipps was Kyle Kipps played all over the place.
Yeah,
he really did. Another guy showed up. Stephen Peterman was a tight end when he showed up here.
There you go.
I remember him. He ended up being a really good offensive guard. Mike's gonna be with us for one more segment. Hanging with Hester and Hanny. Back after the break. 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hangin' with Hester and Hanny.
Are you a licensed contractor? There's lots of good contractors in Louisiana doing work the right way, but unfortunately, too many unlicensed contractors are working outside the licensing requirements. Working as a contractor in Louisiana requires a license for the company doing the work. The Louisiana State Licensing Board for Contractors wants to help you get licensed to allow you to conduct work legally. It's not difficult to get the license. We can help you. Go to lacontractor.org for more information. Licensed contractors, it's the law.
This is big, really big. I mean, really, really, really big. Because Honda's summer clearance event is going on right now at Richards Honda. With 0 to the 4th power on brand new Honda Civics. That's 0 down, 0 due at signing, 0 security deposit, and 0 first month payment. Plus, summer clearance on every new vehicle in stock. Just another reason why people call Richards Honda the smart choice. I-12 at Millerville Road and richardshonda.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
This is a house call. This is a follow-up appointment. This is a diabetes checkup. This isn't just more convenient care, it's more advanced care. This is innovating healthcare at Louisiana's #1 hospital, Ochsner.
I'm Jay Ducote. I grew up learning how to cook at LSU tailgate parties and right in my own backyard. And I created JD's Louisiana products to bring that Louisiana flavor to you at home for your backyard cookout. JD's Louisiana barbecue sauce, Louisiana molasses mustard, spicy and sweet barbecue rub, and more are available at your local supermarkets or by logging on to jducote.com/shop. Put in promo code CST for 25% off at checkout.
To all of our heroes working on the front lines of this COVID-19 pandemic, your bravery and selflessness represent the very best of us, and we want to say thank you. I'm asking everyone around the state to join me in celebrating the heroism of our healthcare professionals on the 19th of every month at 1900 hours, that's 7 p.m. Write a note of appreciation, make plans to donate to charitable organizations, or say a prayer. To learn more, visit 19thanks.org. Thank you, and God bless.
Service Master Elite create clean, disinfected work environments. As a local business, we take pride in serving the New Orleans and Baton Rouge areas. Our cleaning protocols follow CDC and OSHA standards for healthcare settings, offices, senior living, restaurants, and industrial plants. Contact Service Master Elite to get your operation ready for reopening with germ disinfection cleaning. Service Master Elite, the trusted choice in professional cleaning since 1996.
At All-Star Toyota, you get it all. If you're in the market for an all-new Toyota vehicle, come see our friendly and knowledgeable sales team at All-Star Toyota. Located in Baton Rouge at the corner of Airline and Goodwood, we've been serving our community since 2005 by offering a large selection of new Toyota cars, trucks, and SUVs. Get behind the wheel of your dream car and take a test drive at All-Star Toyota today.
Callahan Injury Lawyers. Hangin with Hester and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and 1130 The Tiger.
Hour number 2, Hanging with Hester and Hanny. Jacob with the day off today. Mike Scarborough with us for one more segment here. Conor O'Gara from Saturday Down South will be with us in about 15 minutes. Dr. Stephen Etheridge with us a little bit later on in the hour. Luke Johnson from NOLA and Bo Bishop from Bishop and Laurinaitis up in Cleveland about whether the Big Ten will play football. What did you think of that story that has been out this morning that Ohio State is, kind of spearheading this way? They get 6 teams out of the Big Ten to play each other a home and home in a 10-game season?
I've got some friends who are publishers of sites in those markets, and, man, they've been on a roller coaster ride. And, of course, can you imagine what it's like dealing with your message boards on those sites that have, thousands of subscribers and the mood they've been in? I've been joking. The line I've had the last few days is, the commissioner of the Big Ten's is approval rating somewhere between scurvy and leprosy.
Pretty much.
I mean, but no, it's like, how do you get away with that? And how do the let's say if Ohio State and so forth were to do something like that, what do the Northwesterns and the Minnesotas have to say about it? And is there lawsuits that start flying? You have to get a whole lot of people to sign off, and where you're not in a courtroom.
According to the report, Nebraska's in, Penn State's in, Ohio State is spearheading this, and Iowa's in. And this would go back to the first report, which was that when they took, I don't want to call it a vote because they're not calling it a vote anymore. Let's just call it a survey in that room among the presidents. Nebraska and Iowa were the first two to say, we want to play. The kicker is going to be Wisconsin and Michigan. Barry Alvarez at Wisconsin apparently is on board with this thing, but the president at the University of Michigan is a cardiologist, is a doctor. They have a cardiologist up there that says that the Big Ten's report that they were counting on is bogus.
Oh yeah, that has been thoroughly debunked, and that's another thing. Regardless of what you think of, he probably started off on a rough. Clay Travis has been all over this all day long, every day.
Yeah,
and they've got medical people who have thoroughly debunked the heart issue. That's any virus does that to anybody's heart. But you just have to watch out for it. So
we've had, Dr. Etheridge explained it very well the first week when we were talking about myocarditis, and said exactly that. Imagine being in Ohio, because yesterday the governor of Ohio, Mike DeWine, gave the go-ahead for contact sports, which means that high school football is going to continue in Ohio. Cincinnati is going to play. Of course, the NFL is going to play. And Ohio State, who is a bigger draw than anything in that sport, in that state, including the Browns, I would say. I would say that Ohio State is more popular than the Browns, and they're certainly more popular than the Bengals, will not play. How would you like to explain that? That's a tough one. I was just kind of trying to put it into terms here. What would happen if this were the SEC? What if LSU, Alabama, Auburn, Georgia, Tennessee, and Florida just said, you know what? The 6 of us will go it alone. We're going to play everybody twice. Could you imagine playing Alabama twice in a year? Could you imagine Michigan and Ohio State playing twice in a year? I mean, that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Boggles the mind.
But I would love to see it happen. It's it's almost like, let's just get on the bus and we're going to go play. I mean, it's like they're going somehow, if they're going to exhaust every avenue to try and make a season happen, and I'm all for it.
You're talking about some really good, some potentially some good games. I mean, if Ohio State and Penn State played twice, if Ohio State and Michigan played twice, can you imagine opening the season for Ohio State at the Big House in Ann Arbor and playing the last game of the season again against Michigan at the Shoe?
Well, okay, let's think if that were to happen, and we know what the SEC schedule looks like now. So if you're the playoff committee and you're and the playoffs go as planned, normal format, is it only the Big 12 teams that come out with one loss or zero losses, and everybody else from the SEC and the Big 10 have 2 or 3 losses that you're considering for your playoffs?
It's possible. We saw the over-under totals yesterday really caught some people by surprise, certainly me, to see an LSU total that started at 6.5. Now, it's since been bet up, by the way. Alabama was starting at I think it was 7.5. Is back up to 8.5 now. But the odds makers are looking at this as what it'd be like to navigate a 10-game conference only schedule.
I think I'd actually enjoy it. You're having playoff teams that are sitting there at 8-2 or 9-2 after an SEC championship game win.
We were talking about this earlier about things that could stay the same. I still think it's a long shot. But if we come out of this and the next schedule cycle comes up and they say, you know what, we don't really want to play 3 bye games. We'll just play 1. And the 12-game schedule will include 10 conference games, 1 major non-conference games, and you'll play 1 bye game, 1 rent-a-win game, and that's it. If that happened, I think it'd be tremendously positive for college football. I think in order to get them to sign off on that, and by them I mean the Power 5 conferences, you would have to expand the playoff, because there's still those old biases die hard. Well, if I play 10 conference games and my other game is against Clemson or Texas or somebody like that, then the odds of me navigating that at 12-0 are pretty tough. And 1 loss is about all you can take in the playoff. So if you're going to go to that, then that expands the playoff, which is also fine. I don't have any problem going to 8 teams there.
Well, and certainly the criteria that if this thing happens and then you've got teams that get hit by COVID and they lose a game because they were missing 6 starters, that's something that would have to come to the table when the playoffs figuring out their format. But to go back to some of the fallout, or I guess some of the things that get adopted down the line because of what we've had to negotiate with the COVID, is this when we now have a 10-game SEC schedule? Are we now getting, if this goes off and people like it, are we getting closer to a true 10-game SEC schedule and the schedule being more equitable, which, of course, we've been talking about and fighting for here in Baton Rouge forever?
I think there'd be a few things that would have to happen. Number one, I think you'd have to expand the playoff, because schools would be very conscious about, listen, if I got to play all these games, the chances of me making the playoff with one. The second thing is I think ESPN would have to spearhead a movement, and it would be money-based. In other words, they would come back and say, if you don't play Texas San Antonio, you don't play Abilene Christian, and instead you play a conference game, we'll give you this much more money. That would move the needle, especially for departments that are going to be cash-strapped post-COVID, and there's going to be a lot of them. Even the ones that are as big as these big Southeastern Conference schools are going to feel a hit. Yesterday, Alabama said 20% in the stands. You don't have to be a math major to figure out the financial impact that's going to make. And not only is it 20%, you're going to have to jump through quite a few hoops to be one of those 20%. So if a year from now, 2 years from now, they came back and ESPN said it's worth this much more money to us to get rid of these bye games and instead play conference games, I think the leagues would at least listen. But you'd have to give them more money, and you'd have to expand the playoff before I think it would really gain any traction. The one coach that's been the most outspoken about this is Ben Saban, and that's a powerful voice to put up at the front there. If he could get some other people behind it, maybe gain some more traction.
I thought about you last week because I was joking. I was on a show in Jacksonville or somewhere, and I'm like, is this the one instance where you're actually probably glad that the SEC office is in Birmingham, because Saban wants football so bad, and and it's like, of course we know what we've got now, but you talk about Alabama having 20% capacity. Which state of the SEC schools do you think is going to have the highest capacity, since it's now up to local governors? I'm thinking Florida.
Florida is the obvious choice there, if they can control their numbers.
Yeah, based on a Republican governor, based on
and that's it. Every time I get asked about what LSU's policy is going to be, how many people are going to be in there, I tell them the same thing. What phase is Louisiana going to be in? Are you going to be in phase 2? Or are you going to be in phase 3? Because I think that makes a big difference. And when the governor addresses the next period ending, which is a week from Friday, which he'll do if he stays on his schedule early next week, that next group will get right up close to when the season's supposed to start. If he gives out another 3-week declaration next week, that pushes you up to the week before the football season starts. So if you're in phase 2, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to put anybody in there.
The state of Texas might start at 25, but it won't be long before they're at 50.
If the numbers go in the right direction, I think that's very possible for sure. Tell everybody what's coming up on TigerBait.com.
Yeah, we've got our all-day chat going on right now. I did a big report on a quarterback that I think people need to pay attention to from Woodlawn, Ricky Collins, class of 2023. Went out and saw him, of course, coached by Marcus Randall, former LSU quarterback, and I think had there not been COVID, he'd have a stack of offers right now, at least from some mid-majors. So got that on the front page of Tiger Bait, and if you're an LSU fan, we want to have you come try us for $1.
All right, Mike. Appreciate it as always. Stay safe, and we'll have you back soon.
Good.
All right, we come back. Con O'Gara from Saturday Down South. This is Hanging with Hester and Hanny. Jacob with the day off, but he will be back tomorrow. 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hanging with Hester and Hanny.
Our friends over at Tiger Air, keeping you cool during the hot summer months. And, of course, with the American Standard Heating and Air Conditioning Company, you're always going to get the top quality product. The American Standard, when they put it in my home, the first thing that I noticed was a decrease in my energy bills. The efficiency of the system and the controllable thermostat from your cell phone make it so easy to navigate. For the American Standard, there is no better unit on the market. So for me, the quality of the service that I got from Tiger Air, immediately I saw changes to those energy bills, and that made it worth everything for me. They can do the same for you. Priority service, and of course, they're going to stand behind their products. So go to tiger-air.com. The American Standard, available right now.
Off the Bench, Hanging with Hester and Hanny. After further review and more are all live daily on the 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge YouTube page. Subscribe now to interact with us inside the live chat. Find highlights for each show's channel and get notified whenever we go live.
If I built a van, it would do more than haul.
It would carry my entire business. I'd make it available in dozens. Make that thousands of configurations.
It would keep an eye on my fleet. And an eye out for danger.
If I built a van, I'd make it available in diesel and gas. And I'd build it right here in South Carolina.
Introducing the all-new Sprinter, starting at $33,790. Built in the USA. Mercedes-Benz. Vans. Born to run.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
This isn't just another day. It's so much more. Kelly's life was put on hold when her auctioneer primary care doctor discovered a rare blood disorder. Her doctor connected her to an auctioneer care team of cancer, heart, and kidney specialists. With multiple primary care locations around Baton Rouge, same-day appointments, and online scheduling, we're relentless about keeping you healthy. Auctioneer Baton Rouge, innovating healthcare for Kelly.
Do you know the proper way to prevent the spread of COVID-19 in your office? We do. We're Janny King. a leader in the cleaning industry for over 30 years, and we've developed comprehensive programs to address proper cleaning and disinfection. We have experience in applying disinfecting programs in hospitals, office buildings, schools, and other venues. Now we're ready to help and able to assist customers that need disinfecting services.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Are you a licensed contractor? There's lots of good contractors in Louisiana doing work the right way, but unfortunately, too many unlicensed contractors are working outside the licensing requirements. Working as a contractor in Louisiana requires a license for the company doing the work. The Louisiana State Licensing Board for Contractors wants to help you get licensed to allow you to conduct work legally. It's not difficult to get the license. We can help you. Go to lacontractor.org for more information. Licensed contractor.
Coming up on Thursdays, Off the Bench. The latest from padded practice 2 of Saints Camp. A recap of the NBA playoff action. Chef Michael Johnson answers all your Munchies questions. And Chad Durbin breaks down the MLB. Off the Bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
Hangin' with Hester and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and 1130 The Tiger.
We're brought to you by Richards Honda, home of the warm and fuzzy feeling. Jacob is out today, but he'll rejoin us tomorrow. And with us right now is Connor O'Gara from Saturday Down South. Connor, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing well. Just trying to keep it positive, one day at a time. How's everything going with you guys?
We're doing pretty well. LSU moving in this week, so we'll see how that goes. We're very, very hopeful. And one of the things we were talking about last segment is something that you wrote a column on at Saturday Down South, which is a 10-game SEC schedule. Listen, we know it's a long shot, but you did actually pave a way that this could be a possibility in the future. What is that path?
So that path, I think, is pretty narrow, unfortunately. I do think that, it's going to take some different sort of circumstances in order for us to get that. It's not as simple as, hey, this is super entertaining. Why don't we do this? There's the obvious hurdle of, well, if you did this, SEC teams would essentially be forking over a home game, and you'd have to figure out a way to be able to make that up. Now, the argument for it, and the only way that this could ever happen, is if we get to a place where, unfortunately, in a post-pandemic world, where all these group of 5 teams can't afford to survive, and if there's a smaller pool to be able to pick from a scheduling standpoint, and the Power 5 commissioners get together and they just say, you know what, why don't we do this? Why don't we all get on the same page and do a 10-game conference schedule? Somebody is going to have to convince Greg Sankey to do it, because he's not going to all of a sudden be like, look, let's make this happen. I'll willingly do this. There's a reason that the SEC and ACC have stayed at the 8-game conference schedule and not followed suit like the Big Ten was hoping for when the Big Ten made that switch from an 8-game conference schedule to a 9-game conference schedule in 2016. And you know what? What the SEC and ACC are doing, it's working. It's working really well. And they have been able to do this because they've been so successful in the college football playoff, and their contenders are so good in non-conference play. So, yeah, I think the path is really narrow, and it would take that set of circumstances. And it would also have to be, on top of that, they would have to show that the financial benefits and the potential cable package that you'd be able to sell with having more competitive games and what it could do for attendance potentially as well would have to be able to outweigh some of that cost.
Doesn't ESPN have to be the driving force there? Don't they have to come up and say, in a post-COVID financially strapped environment, that we can give you this much more money to change this format?
Potentially, and that could be a driving force. And that's the point that I think is really important here, in that if you have these universities who are hurting and they're in a tough position, and they decide, you know what, instead of maybe spending this money on group of 5 checks, because that's part of the balance of this whole thing as well, instead of paying 7 figures to have Georgia State come to our place or something like that. Let's see if we can figure out a way to make this a more attractive cable package. I think that's a perfectly fair point. I don't know if ESPN necessarily is going to be in position to do that, but if there's something that can kind of push in that direction, one would have to think it would be that, because there's a reason this hasn't happened. Like, the SEC is known for a very long time. Hey, look, if we put together a conference schedule that has more conference games, of course people are going to be all over it. Of course we're going to have more interest. But at the same time, the SEC has always been about getting teams to the college football playoff, and they have figured out the best possible way to do that, to send the conference champion to the college football playoff each of the 6 years of the system. It's working. And so you would essentially need somebody like an ESPN to force the issue, and for all these other Power 5 commissioners to get on board, because it's one for all or all for it's got to be everybody's on the same page to do this, because it's not going to be the Big Ten taking that leap again and hoping that the SEC does it. And as we've seen during these COVID times, the Power 5 leaders aren't necessarily always willing to work together.
Does this become an easier path if the playoff expands?
Does it become easier for the playoff to expand?
To get to a 10-game schedule, if the playoff were to expand, if you go to 8 teams, then it becomes easier to get into the playoff at that point, and thus they might be more willing to swallow a 10-game schedule.
Potentially, but it doesn't really seem like the teams are bracing for that, because if you look at these future schedules, man, they're loaded. I've been saying this for a while. The 2020 decade is going to be very different in terms of non-conference play. We're getting away from these neutral site games. I know that LSU has one coming up soon in Orlando, in my neck of the woods here, but really, I mean, you're going to see a dramatic shift in the way that non-conference games are played. And there are teams like Georgia and Florida where, if you look at their schedules in the mid-2020s, they're loading up, and they're going with multiple Power 5, like 2, sometimes even 3 Power 5 opponents that they're going to have in non-conference play to face, because the assumption is that expansion of the playoff is happening, and it'll be done under the premise that they're still going to keep the conference schedules the same as they currently are. So, yeah, I mean, it could make things easier, but at the same time, I think the teams have already sort of braced for it, and that would create a lot of different potential issues as well, with all of these matchups already set in stone.
Let's talk about the current schedule, the one that was released to us. There was a little bit of consternation, if you will, from some of the coaches that the 2 added opponents were not done equally, but it wouldn't be the SEC if we weren't complaining about something in scheduling. But when you saw the order in which they were released and the teams that they had to play, what were your thoughts about how the SEC did here?
There has never been a year in which the easiest schedule in the SEC and the toughest schedule in the SEC are closer together than 2020. We have 10 games that every single SEC team is going to have of a possible 13 opponents. That's 75% of the league right there that you're going to have to face. Nobody is getting through the SEC by getting lucky. So I understand that there was frustration from fans of Arkansas, fans of Mizzou. And at the same time, I would push back on that by saying, well, look, those 2 teams have been facing each other in a crossover every single year. Meanwhile, LSU is out here playing Florida every single year. You've got teams like Tennessee that have to face Alabama every single year. Why was it assumed that they were just going to get the benefit of the doubt or something like that just because they've struggled? When you're a bad team, you're going to have to face the good team. That's the nature of the beast in the SEC. And when you have that much depth, it was somewhat inevitable. I was cautioning people to take a step back when the 2 games came out for everyone, and just say, take a step back and look at everybody's 10-game schedule. It's never been more even. Remember how a few months ago we're talking about A&M and how A&M's going to get so lucky with the schedule this year, and now A&M's got Alabama and Florida in the 2 of the first 3 weeks. You know what? That's how it should be. That's how it should be in the SEC. And so I am glad from that standpoint, from a competition standpoint, that it's never going to be more balanced than ever. And the fact that if you're going to win the SEC, you could end up having to face 11 of the 13 SEC teams possible. Like, that's a really good thing, and I'm excited to see that play out, hopefully.
What do you make of this report from Jeff Snook, who is actually retired, but came out and made a Facebook post last night? He's a longtime reporter for Ohio State, that the Buckeyes are still trying to piece together a schedule, that their athletic director is trying to get 6 Big Ten teams, including Ohio State, to go into a 10-game schedule. In your opinion, does this have any chance to work?
I'll never say never in 2020. I mean, goodness gracious.
Yeah, good point.
Can't do that. Can't do that at this point. But at the same time, it is weird to see something like that come out a week removed from Gene Smith essentially quieting those rumors that the Big Ten was going to seek outside competition and essentially forego potentially that $52 million revenue check, which everybody was criticizing Nebraska for wanting to continue to find ways to play football when Ohio State was saying all the same things that Nebraska was, but Ohio State wasn't taking necessarily the shots from the national media because Ohio State has been a team that has been in the college football playoff picture, whereas Nebraska obviously hasn't. But I would say that it's still very unlikely, and there are so many legal things to try and get around if you're in Ohio State. But I applaud the effort to continue to try and find these ways when the Big Ten has been so horrible with communication. Kevin Warren has failed as a first-year commissioner, not just because of the decision that he made, but because of the way he went about making it and the fact that he left so many important people in the dark. And now there's rumors that the president didn't even have this vote that was reported widely, that it was 12-2 vote to cancel the season. So this entire thing is a mess, and I don't blame any president, AD, coach if they're trying to make things happen when we're still figuring things out, and there are still other Power 5 conferences that are willing to play right now based on the medical information that they have. So again, I'm not saying it's likely that this is going to be all of a sudden happening. There's so many hoops that they would have to jump through, but you know what? At this point, who in the world knows?
Are you surprised that Kevin Warren hasn't tried to give a little bit more insight as to why this decision was made, a little bit more medical evidence, maybe a medical expert with him? I mean, he is just getting beaten up news cycle after news cycle, and I'm just wondering why at some point he hasn't tried to clarify the Big Ten's position.
Well, that's a great point, because don't you think that if he had an ace in the hole, a piece of information, he'd be sharing it right now, because he's getting just attacked. And if you have something like that, that's the type of thing that if you're a Power 5 commissioner, you leak that information. You leak it to the Pete DeMells, Dan Wilkins, Pat Forties. You leak it to them, and you hope that something like that is going to do your bidding for you, and that's going to drive the conversation, the narrative. But I tend to think that after all this time, he doesn't have that. And the growing sense is that he reacted to something that other people took in a completely different way. And I saw the AL.com story this morning about how there was a medical advisor who said this was based on a study done in Germany about middle-aged men, and it wasn't necessarily done under the understanding of how it could impact college athletes. And so that's the thing that if that's still the big hang-up in this whole deal, yeah, it's a really bad look for him, and there are a lot of people who are going to continue to question that. But yeah, I think that's a great point that's kind of lost in the shuffle of all this. Like, if he had an ace in the hole, he'd be making it right now.
You want to talk about bad look? It's one thing in the state of Ohio if the Browns and Bengals play and the Buckeyes don't, but if the Bearcats play and the Buckeyes don't, then that's a really hard. That's hard to explain, and the high schools as well. That's really hard to explain away.
Yeah, I thought that's what you were going to say, that the high schools are playing, and Ohio State football isn't. Yeah, I mean, it's like what crazy time this is, and you know what? It's so bizarre to see so many differences of opinion in terms of people that say you shouldn't have even entertained this idea. You should have shut down the season months ago. But at the same time, if there are all these other people who are willing to try and find these solutions to make it work, it's kind of hard not to look at that and say, well, what are they doing? Why are they so confident in that? And in the state of Ohio, you see that discrepancy. You see that difference of opinion. And it's so bizarre that a program that means so much to that state is not going to be playing fall football as of right now. And so many other, even as you brought up, Cincinnati playing football and Ohio State isn't. These are just weird times all around, and there's really nothing that we can compare it to.
Conor O'Gara from Saturday Down South, thanks a lot for your time today. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yep, appreciate it, man.
We'll take a break. Gordy Rush with us when we come back. Dr. Stephen Etheridge with us a little bit later on in this hour. Hanging with Hester and Hanny, brought to you by Richard's Honda, home of the warm and fuzzy feeling.
Hanging with Hester and Hanny. Our listeners fire up their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
Here at the Big Squeezy, we continue to serve the Baton Rouge and Southeast Louisiana areas during these troubling times. We are dedicated to providing you healthy food items to help you live your best life. From our cold-pressed juices to our delicious smoothies, let the Big Squeezy keep you going. Stay active, stay happy, and let us help you stay healthy. Visit us at our locations and also inside of Alexander's and the Thurns grocery stores or online at thebigsqueezy.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
This is a house call. This is a follow-up appointment. This is a diabetes checkup. This isn't just more convenient care, it's more advanced care. This is innovating healthcare at Louisiana's #1 hospital, Ochsner.
At All-Star Toyota, you get it all. If you're in the market for an all-new Toyota vehicle, come see our friendly and knowledgeable sales team at All-Star Toyota. Located in Baton Rouge at the corner of Airline and Goodwood, we've been serving our community since 2005 by offering a large selection of new Toyota cars, trucks, and SUVs. Get behind the wheel of your dream car and take a test drive at All-Star Toyota today.
When you want the best of Louisiana, you don't go to a superstore. We know what we like, and we like it local. Same goes for banking. As one of Louisiana's largest local banks, we offer homegrown services crafted around you. Gulf Coast Bank, the bank that cares about you.
Le posso offrire un caffè? Le posso offrire un caffè? Andiamo insieme da me, non c'è.
Call Mr. Electric today for electrical repairs, upgrades, and installations.
ServiceMaster Elite create clean, disinfected work environments. As a local business, we take pride in serving the New Orleans and Baton Rouge areas. Our cleaning protocols follow CDC and OSHA standards for healthcare settings, offices, senior living, restaurants, and industrial plants. Contact ServiceMaster Elite to get your operation ready for reopening with germ disinfection cleaning. ServiceMaster Elite, the trusted choice in professional cleaning since 1996.
$10,000 off MSRP on a new 2020 Ford F-150. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. And with Bayou to You, free delivery right to your door. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Wednesday's Hump Day AFR presented by Pluckers. Russ Mitchell reacts to the SEC schedule, and the Saints are back on the practice field. We'll have a practice report. Join us 3 to 6. 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hangin with Hester and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and 1130 The Tiger.
We're brought to you by Richard's Honda, home of the warm and fuzzy feeling. Jacob with the day off today. He'll be back with us tomorrow. Gordy Rush joining us right now. Gordy, I don't know if you had a chance to get by the office here in the last couple hours, but Moscona sends his love.
Well, I just actually had lunch with Moscona, and so I would do it out, having to see Moscona anymore today. I kind of had my quota of Moscona.
I understand. It's completely understandable. The football team started workouts, the latest group of workouts earlier this week. Completely different setup now, Gordy, in leading into an opener. I mean, we covered August camp for years, but this will be a longer camp. It'll be a different camp. I wanted to get your thoughts on the schedule and how you space this and how you ramp them up when you've never really had this template before.
Yeah, it's definitely a new template, but again, everybody has a new template, and I had a chance to run by yesterday, and I think Coach O's done a fantastic job. From most of what I've heard is kind of morning walkthroughs and mental reps and things of that nature, and and afternoon practices, and they've been limited thus far, and it's just been helmets out there. But I think that I think being consistent, and they've been consistent through a lot of this, I think is the right approach. They've been able to do a lot of installation, which is huge with Bo Pelini's side of things. But I think the plan's solid, and instead of having the 3 days, and not that Ed ever did that, it's more of a normal approach, if you will, more of just that one practice a day right now.
If you were looking at one or two spots where you were most anxious to see what the outcome would be from a personnel standpoint, where would they be?
Well, I think all the new faces on the defensive end, and you go through the roster and defensive line rather, and they've got a lot of talent there, but there are a lot of freshmen and transfers that I think they're excited about. I think that's something that jumps out, and without a doubt, the quarterback position. Miles, obviously, when I see him firsthand, you can see the growth. I really didn't pay attention much to Miles last year because Joe was on the field, and you didn't really. I didn't focus on the reps when the number twos were out there, but you can see obviously bigger and stronger. I like the leadership that he's shown out there, and I tell you, Johnson and Finley, the two backups, both of them really live arms. And granted, we're talking about them going through 7-on-7 and some just pass drills and things of that, but a great looking process. I want to see the quarterbacks develop.
Continuity on the offensive line. We talk about this every year. They're breaking in new starters in multiple positions, and they're having to deal with Austin Deculus's injury right now, but they do have some experience up there. So if you had to point out one or two spots there on that offensive line, the most important parts about their continuity?
Well, I mean, the center position. And so I think, Liam Shanahan's been a guy that a lot of people have talked about, and obviously the morning show, Jordy and T-Bob have had Coach on, and they've talked about him. And, obviously had a good career up at Harvard. Here's the thing. You don't know how good he's going to be until the pads are on. How's he going to handle Tyler Sheldon with pads on? And so I'm interested to see that. The left tackle position with Sadiq Charles departing and Dare Rosenthal stepping in. I think those are the big question marks, left tackle and center. The one you feel most comfortable with, I do, is Ed Ingram. Ed Ingram, arguably, had he, before the suspension, you could have made a case at the time he was LSU's best offensive line prospect. So to have Ed back and get a full training camp, a full off season under his belt, even though it's been changed a little bit by COVID, I'm excited to see what he looks like.
You watch defensive backs. You love breaking down that particular part of the game. So tell me what the departure of Kerry Vincent does in the secondary.
Well, I don't think certainly it hurts because you've got somebody that's giving you a lot of snaps in the nickel position. And so specifically when you go third down, third and long, and you go to one of the sub packages and your nickel or dime, and you got a guy that is going to trying to handle one of the inside slot receivers. Here's somebody that's kind of seen it all. That means that somebody's got to step up. But the good thing for LSU, and why me personally I don't flinch, is that you have Eli Ricks, right? You've got Jay Ward that is right now your third corner. If Watt was indeed to start, you've had an unbelievable recruiting class. You have safeties that can play man-to-man. Toss in. I were doing pre and post game back when we were younger pups. Bo Pelini doesn't play as quite as much man to man that Dave Aranda does. So you can get away with some different looks in that. So I think LSU's just going to be fine. You'd love to have him back, but I think LSU's going to be fine.
You watched Cordell Flott quite a bit last year. I know that you were high on him. How do you feel about Flott in the slot?
I don't. I like him on the edge. I just think in this conference, so many receivers out on the perimeter with size, especially in your heavyweight games, that I think he's better suited out there. You know, I actually feel better about Stingley in the slot than I do Flott in the slot. But then again, Stingley's so good that you want to take him off the island. I'm going to look at Jay Ward. I'm going to look at Ricks a little bit. I get a full look at a lot of different people been out there. Not to say that you can't play and you don't want the versatility and you want to be able to have flexibility, meaning we saw last year with Joe Brady and Steve Ensminger what they did, that they were really trying to dictate matchups. So if you need Flott or you need Stingley to go play the slot, that they could do so. But I think they got enough of other looks that personnel, I should say, that somebody's going to step up in that position.
What does Bo Pelini do with Jacoby Stevens that maybe they didn't do with Jacoby Stevens last year?
Yeah, I don't know that. I mean, we haven't seen Bo Pelini. I saw him yesterday in shorts. That was about it. But, I mean, we got a week of it in the spring. And so, you know, I don't know that, I can't expect a carbon copy of what we saw back in 2007 with Bo Pelini to what we're going to see now. But I mean, the thing about Jacoby Stevens, I think the big question mark is, how are these new edge rushers going to perform for LSU? Because if you recall 2 years ago when Chasson was hurt, arguably Stevens was probably their best edge threat, you know, bringing pressure, and they played him in more of that role. And then last year with the departure of Harris and John Battle, they needed him at times to play over the top as a free safety. Well, I don't think you need him in that role this year. So I don't know. I don't have the answer, but much like Delpit, I think Steven is best suited on the next level to be somewhere around the football in a strong safety or nickel role.
Last thing, I've driven through there the last few days. I've seen the move-in procedures, and it just feels so much different, Gordy. I mean, you were on campus a little bit. I know it's kind of a difficult question to answer because we haven't been through this, and this is so different. But how does it feel out there? I mean, school's starting in a few days. Does it feel like at all the start of school?
Well, the campus has been a ghost town. So from that perspective, it doesn't. From football, I've got nothing but compliments to the job that Jack Marucci, Shelley Mullinex, Greg Stringfellow, and the whole staff out there has done. I mean, they precaution-wise, it's as safe an environment as I've seen. I've been there a lot of places during this whole pandemic, so that feels differently. But other than everybody with the masks on, football's football, and I think that's a good thing. And so, what I will say, I think is comforting, is that once you're on the football field, there's more of a sense of normalcy, right? And if that makes sense versus, say, walking through the football ops building where they have the checkpoints, where they have the thermometers and all the right precautions, that feels different. But in terms of being on the field, it feels pretty similar.
Gordy, we appreciate it. We'll talk to you as camp progresses.
Okay, Charles, take care.
Thanks a lot. We'll take a break. Dr. Stephen Etheridge, when we come back. We are brought to you by Richard's Honda, home of the warm and fuzzy feeling. Hanging with Hester and Hanny, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hanging with Hester and Hanny.
All right, we're brought to you every single day by Richard's Honda. Of course, you can find them online at richardshonda.com, where you can do it all. You can check for those specials we always tell you in the bottom left corner. You've got 13 days, 9 hours, 18 minutes left to save in their current offers. Also in the bottom right corner of the website, you can have a chat with sales, whatever it is. No matter what your question is, they can answer it right there on the spot. Of course, you're going to find the Warm Fuzzy Promise on the homepage of richardshonda.com. You can schedule service in their state-of-the-art service center. You can order parts and accessories on richardshonda.com. But we would encourage you, go see them at 13413 Millerville Greens Boulevard in Baton Rouge. That's I-12 and Millerville. They have over 700 new and pre-owned vehicles priced to move right now. So go check them out. No matter what you're looking for, no matter what your lifestyle calls for, car, hybrid, midsize SUV, full-size SUV, van, truck, they have got something you're going to fall in love with and drive off the lot over at Richard's Honda, home of the warm and fuzzy feeling.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Are you a licensed contractor? There's lots of good contractors in Louisiana doing work the right way, but unfortunately, too many unlicensed contractors are working outside the licensing requirements. Working as a contractor in Louisiana requires a license for the company doing the work. The Louisiana State Licensing Board for Contractors wants to help you get licensed to allow you to conduct work legally. It's not difficult to get the license. We can help you. Go to lacontractor.org for more information. Licensed contractors, it's the law.
Citizens Bank is proud to bring you the Fan of the Week. But during these times with no fans, Citizens Bank is switching its support to the Banking on BR campaign to raise money for the Baton Rouge Food Bank. You can help out by visiting brfoodbank.org or bankingonbr.com.
If I built a van, it would do more than haul.
It would carry my entire business. I'd make it available in dozens, if not thousands of configurations.
It would keep an eye on my fleet.
And an eye out for danger.
If I built a van, I'd make it available in diesel and gas. And I'd build it right here in South Carolina.
Introducing the all-new Sprinter, starting at $33,790. Built in the USA. Mercedes-Benz. Vans. Born to run.
To all of our heroes working on the front lines of this COVID-19 pandemic, your bravery and selflessness represent the very best of us, and we want to say thank you. I'm asking everyone around the state to join me in celebrating the heroism of our healthcare professionals on the 19th of every month at 1900 hours, that's 7 p.m. Write a note of appreciation, make plans to donate to charitable organizations, or say a prayer. To learn more, visit 19thanks.org. Thank you, and God bless.
This isn't just another day. It's so much more. Kelly's life was put on hold when her auctioneer primary care doctor discovered a rare blood disorder. Her doctor connected her to an auctioneer care team of cancer, heart, and kidney specialists. With multiple primary care locations around Baton Rouge, same-day appointments, and online scheduling, we're relentless about keeping you healthy. Auctioneer Baton Rouge, innovating healthcare for Kelly.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is a local bank with a straightforward philosophy.
It's about doing the right thing for our customers.
Participating in our community with annual local fundraisers. Offering individual attention in a modern banking atmosphere with a trusted local company. Gulf Coast Bank invested in technology with a local touch, giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime.
We're building relationships through personal service as a bank that cares about you.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
Prompt, professional, reliable. If you're looking for a breath of fresh air with your AC and heating needs, call the professionals at Anison Bitter. Anison Bitter.
It's a Wednesday edition of Game Time with Jimmy Ott and Ben Mintz. The guys are live from Snow's Seafood and Steak over in Gonzales. Come out from 6 to 8 p.m. and say hello or listen here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hangin' with Hester and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and 1130 The Tiger.
And we welcome you back in, Hanging with Hester and Hanny, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. If you're watching along with us on YouTube, 104.5 ESPN is a page. Please go and subscribe. Jacob Hester with the day off, but he will be back tomorrow. Dr. Stephen Etheridge with us here for his weekly visit with us. How you doing?
Doing great.
Okay, it's move-in week, and for the LSU campus, it's meant a lot of traffic through the check-in points on campus. We've seen, especially out by the softball facility, there's been a lot of cars, a lot of lines, a lot of check-ins. So, give me an idea, just kind of an overview of what they're facing, what's required now to get in and get on campus.
Yeah, so obviously this is one of the weeks that we at the athletic side of it are a little bit nervous about. You know, we got our guys back, we got our teams back. Now we have all the students coming back, and that's going to be a steady influx of potentially new carriers. So from a medical side, we kind of look at it that way. Now what they're doing, they're one, getting everybody ready, making sure they have information, understanding when you come onto campus, this is what we're worried about. So first of it's just information. So they're giving them packets with information. They're giving them some tools like thermometers to check themselves, and then basically going over what the protocol will be. And I think that's going to be the important thing because, a lot of these kids are accustomed to, just like us, normally and prior to COVID, you woke up, you feel a little tired, you got a headache, maybe some runny nose congestion. Well, I'm just going to go to work. I'm going to power through it. I'm going to go to class. I'm going to show up. Right now, the discussion, the dialogue is no, we don't do that. This is where you go. So it's more about getting them the information. You know, the idea of a mass screening for all these kids, doing a test on them, you know, that's going to be hard to adhere, but making sure they know this is what we worry about. This is what we're doing.
How big of a game changer, in your opinion, is the saliva test that was approved by the FDA over the weekend?
I think that's going to be huge. You know, we don't know when that will be available for us. Obviously, it's a new product. It's a new test. Is it something we'll be able to get readily available here in the next few weeks? Is it going to be months? So, I mean, for us, it's still business with the nasal swabs. We're still doing that. But I think if nothing else, the cost, let alone the guys hate the swabs. I hate the swabs. If you've had one out there, y'all know it's a miserable, I mean, it's basically a brain biopsy. And I mean, this new technique is going to be completely non-invasive. You just spit in a little tube. Now, the problem is just going to be getting it because it's going to be easier. And from a cost standpoint, I mean, from what they're telling us, much, I mean, it's going to be just a few dollars per test, which is fantastic.
And you can turn it around very quickly at pretty much any. You get labs on campus that would test for that?
So that would be one of the things that's yet to be determined. Is this going to be something that has to be done at a specific facility? But it is a quick turnaround. You know, you're looking at a few hours, which also is big. You know, with athletics, you know, the problem is we're trying to get things done, but there's a demand for these tests, just like everybody has seen. We sometimes have to wait, so and that's frustrating. You know, if you have a kid that, you know, doesn't have it, well, he's still out until his test comes back negative.
We're holding our breath on the numbers when the entire student population is back on campus. So let me ask you, what would constitute a number for alarm or a cause for alarm? We saw this happen in two places: North Carolina, which shut the whole thing down, and Notre Dame, which shut it down for 2 weeks. So what has to happen to rise to that? Is there a specific number, a specific percentage? Does it have to be confined to one area? What triggers the alarm to where, hey, we got to make a move?
So it's interesting because just like everything else with COVID, that's going to be a moving mark right there. Right now, depending on what you're looking at, so for example, for the Louisiana Department of Health, they want us to be able to do our best to compartmentalize and bubble our individuals. Now, clearly that doesn't work in a big team sport like football, like it would, say, with the NBA. But what I mean by that, you know, for example, if you're looking at a classroom setting, if you're able to keep all your kids in one classroom, they're saying that is one bubble, so you don't close the whole school. If you can effectively say, hey, the second grade or Miss So-and-so's class, but at more than 2 in your bubble for the state right now is an outbreak.
Two in the bubble of how many?
So again, that's where it's a little gray.
Okay.
and so there's a lot of this that we're still trying to figure out. You know, does that mean that if we have 2 kids on the football team that end up coming positive, say week 1, that we would not be able to play? We don't think so, because we're also looking at who's been sick, when they've been sick. If you have somebody in a 90-day window of illness, you know, CDC says you don't have to recheck. Right now, we have not seen a single person, and you'll see the stuff online that, oh, I had it twice. Well, we've had a lot of research. We've worked with a lot of the infectious disease people. We've really gone really deep into this. Right now, all those unconfirmed, just because you have a second positive test, the thing is, a lot of those are what we call dead virus. And in fact, the ones that have all been sent have been dead virus, especially in that 90-day phase.
I'm sorry, what does that mean?
Yeah, so if I had a nasal swab, let's say I had COVID, and then I get swabbed again a month later because I'm feeling sick, what we've seen in those individuals is that the virus still tests positive sometimes, but it's dead, meaning you can't spread it, and probably the symptoms they're having are not even related to their COVID. It's probably a secondary infection with something else. Now, you're still susceptible to other illness. You still have other things out there. But what we've seen is that in 90 days, we feel pretty confident with that number. And again, we're following, these are, you know, the guidelines not set by LSU or the SEC. We're following, you know, CDC, and these are people who are way smarter than me that are telling us you're okay. So, for example, in that scenario, if we have a few sick, well, we know we have several guys, you know, if you've had positives, they're going to be okay as long as we're in that window. And then beyond that, we have to look and see, okay, maybe you're on the same field, but if you're not in the same bubble. So that's where a lot of this comes into play. And that's where it gets kind of tricky, and we really have to do a good job with our contact tracing, which is something that I think we've done a good job with. And I think that's been one of the areas, you know, we talk about some of these other conferences, other teams where honestly I think they've failed is not so much that we're as scared of what's going to happen with the illness, but how you treat it, how you manage it, how you take care of it. And if you don't have a good plan in place, you're going to fail.
For these positive tests inside the mini bubbles, if we will, does it matter, symptomatic or asymptomatic?
It doesn't in that setting. If they're confirmed positive, I think the only thing that we have to decide is there any way we can justify that they've already had it? So if it's a positive test, new positive, never, they're treated like the symptomatic, whether they have it or not.
Do you feel like that if it was just school and just athletics, that you would be fine. If everybody followed this thing to the letter of the law, you'd be fine. It's when they go home. And by home, I mean to their apartments, their off-campus housing, their dorms, wherever. It's those congregations where the biggest threat lies.
I think that's 100% accurate. Again, we've done a really good job with our guys. We've been able to pretty much pinpoint when and where most of these infections came from. And it's pretty much, I'll tell you, 100% been somewhere else. It's been, maybe they went somewhere else's house, they went to a party, they went to a bar when that was still open. If you go back and you look, if we're doing the right things, I can tell you that the facilities, they're doing a fantastic job, top to bottom. The coaches are doing great, the support staff, the athletic trainers. I mean, we have a great staff there, and I know the other universities are doing really good with this. The problem we do worry about the most, and again, if you look at Major League Baseball, if you look at the snags they've had, you hear about guys going to casinos or to clubs or to things like that. Well, you're going to get it then. You're going to be in closer proximity. You're not going to be paying attention. I might stand over, and we all know, especially if people are, celebrating a little bit, they may get a little bit, that social distancing is going to decrease. And we do know that's when we see the most of it. And if you really look at mostly bad outbreaks, really in the country, you can pinpoint most of them to instances like that.
Appreciate so much you clarifying some of this stuff, and we'll hope that this goes smoothly. That Lord knows there's been enough work put into it to try to make this happen and make it work. So
for sure,
hope that it continues. Dr. Etheridge, thank you so much. We'll take a break. When we come back, Luke Johnson, NOLA, covering the New Orleans Saints. Saints back out on the practice field. We'll do that when we come back. Hanging with Hester and Hanny. Brought to you by Richards Honda, home of the warm and fuzzy feeling. 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hanging with Hester and Hanny.
Oh, hey, what's up? It's Big D and Bubba, 100.7 The Tiger Morning Show. We'd love for you to join us every weekday, 4 a.m. till 9 a.m.
Yeah, everything you want in a show. Country music. We got laughs. We got celebrity in-studio guests. We just need you.
Join us every weekday morning, 4 a.m. to 9 a.m., right where it all started.
That's right. Louisiana's country station, 100.7 The Tiger.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Divorce is hard. Divorce is messy. Divorce is exhausting. The law offices of O.C. Brown walked me through my divorce and helped me find the right solution for me, my kids, my finances, and my property.
Call the law offices of O.C. Brown, your law firm for a lifetime.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Are you a licensed contractor? There's lots of good contractors in Louisiana doing work the right way, but unfortunately, too many unlicensed contractors are working outside the licensing requirements. Working as a contractor in Louisiana requires a license for the company doing the work. The Louisiana State Licensing Board for Contractors wants to help you get licensed to allow you to conduct work legally. It's not difficult to get the license. We can help you. Go to lacontractor.org for more information. Licensed contractors, it's the law.
At All-Star Toyota, you get it all. If you're in the market for an all-new Toyota vehicle, come see our friendly and knowledgeable sales team at All-Star Toyota. Located in Baton Rouge at the corner of Airline and Goodwood, we've been serving our community since 2005 by offering a large selection of new Toyota cars, trucks, and SUVs. Get behind the wheel of your dream car and take a test drive at All-Star Toyota today.
This is a house call.
This is a follow-up appointment. This is a diabetes checkup. This isn't just more convenient care, it's more advanced care. This is innovating healthcare at Louisiana's #1 hospital, Ochsner.
At Corval Toyota in Opelousas, you can get into a new Camry for $239 per month, or take 0% financing for 6 years. $239 per month, or 0% for 6 years. So come on down to Happy Town. That's Corval Toyota in Opelousas, Happy Town, USA.
Callahan Injury Lawyers. Hangin with Hester and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and 1130 The Tiger.
And if you're watching along with us today on CST on our YouTube channel 104.5 ESPN, we appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us today, which is just me in studio today on this Wednesday. Jacob Hester will be back with us tomorrow. And right now, we bring in Luke Johnson from NOLA.com covering the New Orleans Saints. Saints back on the practice field for 90 minutes today. Luke, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing great, Charlie. How are you doing, man?
Doing fantastic. Before we get into today's work, just what it's been like for you. You covered the team for a long time. You cover a lot of teams. What's it like covering a team in the pandemic with all of the protocols that you have to go to?
It's kind of an unfortunate situation as a sports reporter because I think you could talk to anybody. You get a lot of your best stuff when you're able to kind of be up close and personal with guys and get them off to the side on their own. And we're just not getting any of that right now. Everybody that we're talking to is, on a Zoom call with 20 other people on the line. You get a request to ask a question, and there's no sort of like interpersonal back and forth sort of stuff. So, it makes it a challenge, but at this stage, I'm just really happy that there's football to write about, to talk about, to watch, and I hope that's they're able to do that safely, both for the players' sake, for our sake, for our family's sake, for our own mental well-being, to just watch something that we're invested in. I hope this all happens, even though it's just been a little bit more difficult than usual.
All right. So, what has stood out in the early going? If there's a thumbnail look at the early portion of the New Orleans Saints camp, what would it be?
Okay. So just getting this out of the way first, I've actually not been able to go see practice yet. It's part of the deal with these new restrictions. We've got, I think, 10 reporters are able to go to every practice, and I'm part of the second group. So I'll be out there starting Saturday, but they have to kind of keep the numbers down just to reduce the risk. So, but from everything I've been hearing, Emmanuel Sanders, I think, looks like the real deal. We've heard today about Marcus Davenport being up to 280 pounds and looking really, really good physically after he had to end the last season on injured reserve. I think they're as deep as any team in the NFL, and I think that's showing. I think they're going to have a really hard time cutting from 80 to 53 on the active and 16 on practice squad. They have a lot of depth all around, and everything we've heard about the first couple days of camp in pads seems to reflect that.
Cesar Ruiz has worked at the right guard position. When he was drafted, there was the question about whether he would be the starting center or it would be Eric McCoy. Would they flip-flop those two? Do you think that the decision to keep Ruiz at guard and to keep McCoy at center, just from a continuity standpoint, stems as much as anything from the fact that they're not going to have joint practices with anybody and they're not going to have preseason games?
Yeah, and look, I do think that we'll see at some point this summer and training camp, Cesar Ruiz will shift over and play some center. They'll get a look at him there. And he could end up playing center this year. But I think that the circumstances of the 2020 season so far with no preseason games and no joint practices and it just in general a very trimmed down off season with no OTAs or mini camps or stuff like that, it makes it a lot harder to come in and be the center where you're making calls and you're developing a relationship with Drew Brees and all that. I think that makes it much more difficult. And McCoy played well there last year. He might profile better as a guard eventually down the road. And I think Ruiz profiles better as a center. I think ultimately we'll see that as the arrangement. But for the time being, it kind of makes sense that McCoy is kind of the top guy there. And they'll give themselves a little bit more time for Ruiz to settle into this offense.
Give me the name of any receiver that you like that's not named Michael Thomas or Emmanuel Sanders.
Look, I really do believe Traquan Smith can be a very good NFL player. They don't need him to be like a true number two, out there catching 60 balls a year. But I think when he's been healthy and he's figured stuff out, he's been a legit weapon. He's big, he's fast, he's athletic, and if they can just put him in the right spots, I think his natural ability can make him a very, very good player in this offense. So we've heard a lot of really good stuff about him this offseason. I think last year he was held back by his injury a lot more than people thought, and I think if he's healthy, he could actually legitimately have a big year for the Saints. In context, as they're like number 5 pass catching option behind Thomas and Sanders and Cook and Kamara. But I do think he could have a big year.
What do you think the role will be for Ty Montgomery, who has done a multitude of things in his previous stops in the NFL?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think he's a really interesting player, and from he's another one of those guys who the early indications are that he does some things they really like. But then you start to think about, okay, you've got him and Alvin Kamara and Latavius Murray in the same backfield. Dwayne Washington, it probably has a spot on the team just as a guy who has a lot of experience playing special teams. I'm just not exactly sure where they're going to find the opportunities to get him the ball. I think the Saints are one of the smartest teams in the league when it comes to finding what a guy does well and putting him in positions to use that unique ability. And I do think Ty Montgomery has some unique abilities, but it's just really hard to peg a spot for him where he can consistently contribute on this roster. But I'm totally looking forward to getting proven wrong on that.
I think one of the interesting quests for playing time is at linebacker alongside Demario Davis. Nigel Bradham was brought in late in the process before camp started, and Zach Bond has been going early on with the base unit. Do you have a favorite in this race, and is it actually between more than them two? Do we have to put Alex Anzalone's name in there prominently as well?
Yeah, I think Anzalone would probably be the guy I go with, just because they're familiar with him in the system. All things that we've heard about Anzalone so far have been good things. That he's in very good shape. That shoulder that he hurt last year and that he's hurt before is stronger than it's ever been. He's got to prove that he can stay on the field, but I think when he is on the field, he's a really, really good player, and he gives them that athletic sideline to sideline type of play. You can pair that with Demario Davis. You've got, I think, one of the more athletic linebacker cores. Bradham, I think they're probably going to move him along slowly. They're not going to rely on him, I wouldn't imagine, to come in and play a huge amount of reps right away. And Bond is somebody who I think they're going to work packages in for him. The early returns on him, I think, have just been like he's a little bit behind. They love his athleticism, but they're asking him to do something that he hasn't done in a while. So he's got to do some learning, and I think that's why we'll see his role kind of expand as the season goes on as well.
You posted on Twitter about an hour ago, and by the way, if you want to follow Luke, it's at @ByLukeJohnson on Twitter. A picture of Jameis Winston on the practice field. And this is a full body shot, not just the headshots that we've seen in some of the Zoom interviews and stuff like that. And the first thing that jumped out to me was the first thing I thought when I saw even the Zoom shots of his face. He is slimmed down. He's got to be some – gosh, Luke, give me your best guess, but I think he's got to be some 20 pounds down from last year.
At least, yeah. I think he was listed at 230 last year. I'd be surprised if he's heavier than 210. He's very thin, like in a good way. Like he looks like he lost the stuff that he was probably carrying around that he didn't need to carry around. And yeah, if he goes out and has a good showing in training camp, maybe he'll actually convert some people down here to a vegan style diet. I think that'd be an impressive feat on his part. But
in New Orleans, good luck.
Yeah, well, you never know, man. You never know. No, he looks really good, and he's one of the guys I'm most excited to get out there and see, because if he does look good in this offense, you're starting to bring up some really, really interesting questions. If Drew decides this is his last year.
I thought it was a really intriguing signing. It's a prove-it deal for him. It's a win-win deal for New Orleans, and the early returns are good. I like what I've seen and heard so far. Only potential upside. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But it was well worth the effort that I thought that they made to bring him in. And if it works, it could be a jackpot for both Winston and the Saints.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was a really, really ridiculously good signing.
Look, we appreciate your time. Stay safe, and we'll catch up with you a little bit later in camp.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me on, Charlie.
All right. Today's show is also brought to you in part by Supreme Rice and SupremeRice.com, the perfect complement for every meal. You know, we got the family in tonight thinking about making a little bit of red beans and rice. It's one of the great dishes that you can get with either your long grain or your brown or your jasmine rice, maybe your etouffee. When it gets a little bit colder, the gumbo. Locally grown out of Crowley, Louisiana farmers. If you're supporting them, you're supporting Supreme Rice. It's grown, milled, and processed right here in South Louisiana since 1933. It's very, very easy to get. You can get it at all your Walmarts, all your Costco's, all of your AG food dealers, and, of course, it's going to be able to stretch that food dollar for you. So check out Supreme Rice, the perfect complement to every meal for a happy palate and a happy family. And for more information and great recipes, go to SupremeRice.com. Take a break. More with Hangin' with Hester and Hanny, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hangin' with Hester and Hanny.
GMFS Mortgage, GMFSmortgage.com, helping you out here through phase 2. So many different ways they can affect your budget every single month. If you're in a home that you like, you owe it to yourself. Take a look at a refinance, because with rates where they are right now, you can save money in the long term with lower rates, and in the short term with the ability to skip a mortgage payment or two. If you're in the market for a new home, your purchasing power has never been higher. With rates the way they are right now, go and get pre-qualified. Know what you're working with before you step out into the housing market. Maybe you like your home, you just need a little bit more room. A construction loan might make sense for you right now. Sit with a counselor. locally at gmfsmortgage.com. They'll ask you a few questions, and once they get some information, they'll lay out all of the options for you. You can pick the best one for you and your family. That's what I did. It worked out fantastic for me. Love the service that I got, and it was so quick to go from that initial consultation all the way through the closing. So do what I did and do what thousands of others have done. Better your financial situation, and start your journey today at gmfsmortgage.com.
We opened up the playbook and expanded our coverage. Listen daily in high definition on 98.1 HD2. We are 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
To all of our heroes working on the front lines of this COVID-19 pandemic, your bravery and selflessness represent the very best of us, and we want to say thank you. I'm asking everyone around the state to join me in celebrating the heroism of our healthcare professionals on the 19th of every month at 1900 hours, that's 7 p.m. Write a note of appreciation, make plans to donate to charitable organizations, or say a prayer. To learn more, visit 19thanks.org. Thank you, and God bless.
Service Master Elite create clean, disinfected work environments. As a local business, we take pride in serving the New Orleans and Baton Rouge areas. Our cleaning protocols follow CDC and OSHA standards for healthcare settings, offices, senior living, restaurants, and industrial plants. Contact Service Master Elite to get your operation ready for reopening with germ disinfection cleaning. Service Master Elite, the trusted choice in professional cleaning since 1996.
At All-Star Toyota, you get it all. If you're in the market for an all-new Toyota vehicle, come see our friendly and knowledgeable sales team at All-Star Toyota. Located in Baton Rouge at the corner of Airline and Goodwood, we've been serving our community since 2005 by offering a large selection of new Toyota cars, trucks, and SUVs. Get behind the wheel of your dream car and take a test drive at All-Star Toyota today.
This isn't just another day. It's so much more. Kelly's life was put on hold when her auctioneer primary care doctor discovered a rare blood disorder. Her doctor connected her to an auctioneer care team of cancer, heart, and kidney specialists. With multiple primary care locations around Baton Rouge, same-day appointments, and online scheduling, we're relentless about keeping you healthy. Auctioneer Baton Rouge, innovating healthcare for Kelly.
If I built a van, it would do more than haul.
It would carry my entire business. I'd make it available in dozens. Make that thousands of configurations.
It would keep an eye on my fleet.
And an eye out for danger.
If I built a van, I'd make it available in diesel and gas. And I'd build it right here in South Carolina.
Introducing the all-new Sprinter, starting at $33,790. Built in the USA. Mercedes-Benz. Vans. Born to run.
Coming up on Thursday's Off the Bench, the latest from padded practice 2 of Saints camp, a recap of the NBA playoff action. Chef Michael Johnson answers all your Munchies questions, and Chad Durbin breaks down the MLB. Off the Bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
Hangin with Hester and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and 1130 The Tiger.
Second game of the series between the Nets and the Raptors. In the middle of the third quarter, the Nets with a 4-point lead over Toronto. Raptors lead that series 1-0. This is the third day of this. Kind of taking a liking to all-day basketball. This is Playboy Morty's hardly even paying attention to his job today. He's just, he's watching. He's got game 2 now. He's all excited. We'll keep you up to date on that because we had some big upsets yesterday. But did want to continue on with some stuff from the Saints. Bo Bishop, by the way, will be with us at the bottom of the hour. He's from Bishop and Laronitis in Cleveland. We're going to talk to him about the potential of this, we call it a coup with Ohio State, that they're trying to still put together a season with 6 Big Ten teams. We'll talk with Bo Bishop about that. In the meantime, we heard some stuff here early in camp from both Drew Brees and Sean Payton, and we talked about the approach and the difference with Luke Johnson. So this was Brees and his approach to this very unusual camp.
All this is a bit different. We're taking it as it comes. Obviously, the rules are such that we had this ramp-up period, so it's not like we jumped right into practice. But you know what? I thought it was a good opportunity for us to, take what is this year's team, right, with the addition of the rookies and the free agents, and spend a lot of time together, just doing a lot of fundamental things, that otherwise you would just jump right into pads and you would get going. This has given us an opportunity to focus on some of the details, watch a little bit more film, and so we've tried to make the most of it.
And of course, for the Saints going in full pads, they're probably going to do a little bit more work as far as the full practicing when it's allowed for them. This is a way different camp, but they are going to put the full pads on as many times as they are allowed.
Look, I think we've used up all our ramp up terms in the word ramp up. So we've ramped up plenty, and we're now there. There's no more ramp ups. You only get so many ramp ups, right?
The ramp ups are done, and they're out there in full gear. A couple days so far this week. The camp battle between McCoy and Ruiz, not necessarily the battle for a starting spot. They'll both be starting. It's just a matter of where. And Peyton had a few things to say about that.
Yeah, look, we're evaluating both of them. They're both getting plenty of work. McCoy's getting work at center, Ruiz at right guard, and then, probably every second or third day, we'll evaluate flipping them around. So we're rotating those guys along with Nick Easton inside. We feel like, obviously all those reps are important, and I think overall, he's a pretty quick study.
Going to have to be. They'll also have to do that interior work on the offensive line without Andrus Peat for the next few weeks with that thumb injury that's going to keep him out until at least the season opener. We did talk a little bit about Jameis Winston with Luke Johnson and the slim down look. First Peyton and then Brees on Jameis Winston's first full week.
Look, he's doing well. I've been pleased. He's in great shape. He's got a real live arm. Man, I love his attitude, his work ethic. He's doing very well.
I've been impressed with Jameis. He loves football. He loves the game. He loves to compete. Great personality. Very likable guy. Wants to learn. So, man, all those things are the first components that you kind of see and recognize. Obviously, we're just getting into pads, and so we're just getting into real life situations, that we're trying to create, in practice. And so, the reps have been somewhat limited for all of us up to this point. But as that ramps up, I really like our quarterback room. Me, Taysom, and Jameis. I think that's, we all work well together.
It's a good point by Brees about the limited reps. They were talking about 2 periods today of team reps, so there's not a lot there. On the other hand, Jameis Winston's been a starter for 5 years in the league, so it's more about system than it is about experience with him. Speaking of working guys in, Brees had these things to say about the newest addition to his receiving corps, Emmanuel Sanders.
He's a pro. I think that's what you recognize with, these veteran receivers. I recognize it with Ted Ginn when he came in 3 years ago. There's just a veteran presence, a mature nature, and just a way that he goes about his work and his business, and his preparation and his attention to detail, and just a lot of little things just begin to pop up, and you realize why he's been able to play at such a high level for so long. I'm really excited to have Emmanuel. I think he's going to add a great element to what we do. He's another weapon. He's got a great skill set, and I feel like every day we're just continuing to get on the same page and work through the nuances of this offense and this system so that we're speaking the same language out there.
Of all of the people that I was not worried about a ramp up, Emmanuel Sanders was probably the one that I was least worried about. What he did last year when he played his last game against for Denver against Carolina. He was obviously a starter there, was playing, had a 100-yard game just 2 weeks before that he was traded, and then got to San Francisco, and the second week he was there, had 9 catches for 112 yards against Arizona. Now, you move in the middle of the season, and even for veteran players, you got to learn new terminology. You got to learn your teammates. You got to get yourself indoctrinated. He did that as seamlessly as you can possibly do for a guy making a move mid-season. I mean, it's just very, very difficult to do. Even the first game that he played, he was able to get in and score a touchdown. That was against Carolina. So he had, I think it was 10 days total to get himself acclimated and get going. So to be able to go into a room like this with Breeze and Peyton and all the other personnel that they've got, was not worried about Emmanuel Sanders. Today's show is brought to you in part by Louisiana Health and Injury Centers, with 4 locations helping you deal with pain, whether it be from auto accidents, from sports injuries. Sometimes you're just getting a little bit older and things just starting to hurt. For herniated discs, for muscle and ligament strains, for neck and back discomfort, let them ease your suffering. They'll help you out. They'll tailor-make a program especially for you. They've done it for me, for my wife, for other members of our family. It might just be some exercises and stretches that can get you feeling a little bit better, but it might take some dry needling or some electric nerve stimulation, some ultrasound or cryotherapy. 4 locations of Louisiana Health and Injury Centers: 13406 Airline Highway, 2832 Plank Road, 467 Oak Plaza Boulevard in Brewley, and at Jefferson Highway, 9026 Jefferson Highway, that's near Drusilla, with easy access from both I-10 and I-12. Louisiana Health and Injury Centers. We'll take a break. When we come back, Bo Bishop is with us from Bishop and Laurinaitis in Cleveland. Hanging with Hester and Hanny, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hanging with Hester and Hanny.
Go Tros.
All right, also brought to you by Baton Rouge Foundation Repair. Baton Rouge Foundation Repair offers services to correct the settlement of both slab foundations and pier and beam foundations, as well can level your above-ground wood frame house. Now, go to the website, brfoundation.com. There you can check out warranties they have for your slab foundations and your pier and beam foundations. You can find a full list of services right there on the website. You can check out before and after pictures as well. Don't forget, quotes are always free. You can do it at brfoundation.com. You can always email them as well on the site. 225-275-0101 is the number. Some of the things that contribute to those foundation problems: plumbing leaks, evaporation, poor soil conditions, poor drainage, poor foundation construction, true. It's all of those things can contribute to that poor foundation. Well, don't be asked to pay twice for your foundation repair work. Get Baton Rouge Foundation Repairs water shield pilings. Again, estimates always free. One more time, that number, 225-275-0101. That website, brfoundation.com.
Off the Bench, Hanging with Hester and Hanny. After further review and more are all live daily on the 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge YouTube page. Subscribe now to interact with us inside the live chat. Find highlights for each show's channel and get notified whenever we go live.
This is big. Really big. I mean, really, really, really big. Because Honda's summer clearance event is going on right now at Richards Honda. With 0 to the 4th power on brand new Honda Civics. That's 0 down, 0 due at signing, 0 security deposit, and 0 first month payment. Plus, summer clearance on every new vehicle in stock. Just another reason why people call Richards Honda the smart choice. I-12 at Millerville Road and richardshonda.com.
If I built a van, it would do more than haul.
It would carry my entire business. I'd make it available in dozens. Make that thousands of configurations.
It would keep an eye on my fleet.
And an eye out for danger.
If I built a van, I'd make it available in diesel and gas. And I'd build it right here in South Carolina.
Introducing the all-new Sprinter, starting at $33,790. Built in the USA. Mercedes-Benz. Vans. Born to run.
Gulf Coast Bank & Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank & Trust, the bank that cares about you.
Le posso offrire un caffè? Andiamo insieme da me, non c'è.
Call Mr. Electric today for electrical repairs, upgrades, and installations.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Are you a licensed contractor? There's lots of good contractors in Louisiana doing work the right way, but unfortunately, too many unlicensed contractors are working outside the licensing requirements. Working as a contractor in Louisiana requires a license for the company doing the work. The Louisiana State Licensing Board for Contractors wants to help you get licensed to allow you to conduct work legally. It's not difficult to get the license. We can help you. Go to lacontractor.org.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Wednesday's Hump Day AFR presented by Pluckers. Russ Mitchell reacts to the SEC schedule, and the Saints are back on the practice field. We'll have a practice report. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hangin' with Hester and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and 1130 The Tiger.
We're brought to you by Richards Honda, home of the warm and fuzzy feeling. Hester out today. He'll be back with us tomorrow. We welcome in now Bo Bishop from Bishop and Laronitis out of Cleveland, ESPN Cleveland. Joins us right now. Bo, good afternoon. How are you?
Well, I tell you guys, I'm sure we want to talk a little bit about Ohio State, but I must tell you, I'm in Berea, which is where the Cleveland Browns train, and I'm currently looking at 4 Bayou Bengals, one not Braxton and Jarvis, but I see Odell out here. You guys are probably familiar with Grant Delpit and Greedy Williams as well. So I feel like if there's ever a time to have me on, now's the time.
There are LSU Tigers throughout the state of Ohio that are going to gain a lot of attention this year.
That's true.
Absolutely. I'm going to get to those guys in a second, but I got to ask you about this story that broke last night. Jeff Snook, who is I think he's retired, but he's a longtime Ohio State reporter, insider, about the possibility of a plan of 6 Big Ten teams led by Ohio State putting together a 10-game schedule. What do you think of this report? Is there any way that this can work? Does this have legs?
I've known Jeff a long time. He's a good man. I believe he's sourced. I also believe it to be incorrect. I do not believe that Gene Smith, the athletic director at Ohio State, is working behind the scenes to what would essentially, guys, be a coup. I mean, this would be a coup against the Big Ten Conference. So I don't think that would happen. It would also require us to ignore amateurism, which is a big problem in all of this thing. So I don't believe that there will be any legs to this. I do believe that Jeff's sources believe what they told him, but I do not believe that Gene Smith is working behind the scenes to deliver some sort of miracle season, because what it would require is them leaving the Big Ten Conference. And they're not in a position to do that. As big as Ohio State is, and they're the biggest behemoth as you get in college sports, they're just not in a position to leave the Big Ten Conference.
Bo, are you surprised that Kevin Warren hasn't tried to clarify the league's position a little bit better? I mean, he is getting beaten up in every single news cycle here and has not sought to clarify the science, if you want to use that word, that the league is using for this decision.
The messaging here, or rather the lack of messaging here from the Big Ten, headed by Kevin Warren, the new commissioner of the Big Ten, is a fireable offense. It's a fireable offense. It's been 2 Wednesdays ago now, they drop a schedule that they act as revolutionary, with an ability to move 4 games front and back wherever they want to start the season at the beginning of September or the end of September. They follow that up By the weekend, there are rumors that they're ready to bail on the season. On a Monday, a week ago Monday, they're saying, look, we're not going to cancel the season. We're going to postpone it. And by Tuesday, the season was canceled. And it's canceled, guys. Let's be honest. No one's playing spring football. There's no reason to believe anything's going to be better in spring with the schedule starting in January. By the way, the temperatures up here are quite frigid that time of the year. So that is such an ambitious plan. My guess is the next time you see the Buckeyes on the field will be in the fall of 2021. But him not having any sort of messaging is stunning, and I think it's a fireable offense. They botched this as big as you can botch it.
What will be the fallout, if anything, from the petition that was started by Justin Fields and the letters that have been written by the parents of the angry parents of players throughout the Big Ten, and the potential that some of them are going to show up in Chicago this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, it's again, it goes back to that comment I made about Warren's position here and the way they've handled this being fireable. You can't have this. You can't have your most famous, best player in college sport in your conference anyway, and Justin Fields, presumptive number 2 pick in the NFL draft. You can't have this. You can't have him on Good Morning America. And the reason you do is because you botched the messaging here. They needed to show their homework, guys. The Big Ten did not show its homework. They didn't do it, and they're paying a tremendous price from it. In terms of what happens with this, I fear nothing will happen with this, probably the answer. And you're seeing some of that messaging from Ohio State that the focus is on, some sort of a spring schedule. That's where all the focus is. I heard James Franklin talk today, the Penn State coach, talking about that as well, that his focus is on a spring schedule. It has to be, because that's what the Big Ten decided to do. I'll be honest with you guys. They thought that they would jump off a cliff and the rest of the conferences would stampede right behind them. And when they got down to the bottom and saw that the SEC, especially the SEC, didn't follow, my guess is they were stunned, and it's led to the chaos that followed.
Do you believe the report that there was never an actual vote in that meeting and that one or two specific presidents sort of bullied this decision?
No, I don't believe that. I believe that there wasn't a vote, and I don't know. I think some people are getting caught up in the vote part of it. If a bunch of us are sitting around a table and we're like, "Hey, you think we got to cancel the schedule?" Yeah, we probably ought to. You too? Yeah, you too? Yep. You okay with this? And all of a sudden, the majority of them are okay with it. My guess is what's happening is it's a lot of CYA for some of the conference presidents who really wanted to postpone this season and postpone it into fall, that are trying to make it look like they're fighting for just because they've botched the imaging of this so badly. That's my guess, the way that it happened. I do believe that there wasn't a vote. I can't imagine they sat there and took an actual vote, but the overwhelming consensus was to postpone the season.
You said earlier that you didn't think that a spring football season was feasible. How long do you think that they can keep this up and try to make a run at a spring season?
Well, I mean, we're all peddling hope, aren't we? I mean, that's what I say on my show. That's what I feel like I've done all summer. I've peddled hope. I think you can run it out for quite a while. The big thing, guys, and not enough people up here are talking about it, and I don't know how many people down there are talking about it, is amateurism. And so if you're going to play college football in January, or if you're going to play college basketball in January, then you have to play the other sports. Because if you don't play the other sports, you're saying that men's college football and men's college basketball are a necessity. And if they're a necessity, then they're essential. And if they're essential, then you got to pay them. And nobody wants to go down that road, not in intercollegiate athletics anyway. So this is the problem with all of this, is if you're going to play fall sports, you got to play them all. And so if you're going to get to January, you're going to play Big Ten football, then you got to play Big Ten basketball and Big Ten women's basketball and Big Ten hockey and all the other sports they have up here. And I just don't, to me, it doesn't seem believable at all.
Bo Bishop is our guest, Bishop and Laurinaitis. You said you're at Cleveland Browns camp today. Give me a wide angle lens on the state of Ohio right now, where yesterday the governor, Mike DeWine, said that he gave a full go-ahead for contact sports in the state, including high school football. So the pros are playing, the high schools are playing, and the Cincinnati Bearcats are playing, but the Buckeyes aren't. How in the world is this playing?
It's not playing well. I mean, the one thing that we have here in this state, I mean, honestly, there's a lot of similarities between LSU and Ohio State. And it's probably why Joe Burrow fit in there so well, when he moved down there, that it was so similar, and that the one thing that drives the bus in this state is Buckeye football. It's the one constant. It's been there for 100 years. 9 out of 10 Saturdays, it gives you something to be proud about as somebody who lives in this state. And whatever happens with the Bengals and the Browns and everything else, you've got Buckeye football. I also think that Ohio does this, and I lived in the South. I was in Tallahassee for 6 years, so I saw South Georgia, North Florida, and high school football and all of that in those areas. And I know how passionate those places are, like Valdosta and places like that. But the one thing that Ohio does is Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all three of them, as good as anybody. So that's high school football on a Friday night, it's Buckeye football on a Saturday, and that's Browns predominantly on a Sunday. And so that thing has now been ruptured, and it's an angry state right now, guys. And all of that anger is headed and pointed right at the Big Ten, and the Big Ten has sat quietly. So it's a confused state. It's an angry state. And unfortunately, I think a lot of them are missing the amateurism side of this story, and they're focusing on, their Buckeye football being taken because of safety. It wasn't taken because of lack of safety. It was taken because nobody wants to get into a conversation about paying college athletes.
All right, you said you're at Browns camp, so give me an update on the LSU guys. And Grant Delpit is a new face there, second-round pick of the Browns last year.
Well, I'll tell you this. We had obviously his second year with Odell, so we'll just start there. Last year, the first week of camp, he was just unguardable, as he would be. And there was even at one point he had Denzel Ward actually fell down, which is rare for Denzel, someone of his talent. And then he got hurt. And so he and Baker didn't get to practice together in 11-on-11 all year long. But in the first week here, he looks full go. He looks incredibly healthy. No one can stay on him. He had 5 or 6 catches yesterday, had a deep ball where he just shook his head at a defender and says, none of you guys have a chance. Jarvis is the face of the franchise, guys. Jarvis Landry is the face of the franchise. He is the leader. He is an incredible teammate. He catches everything. I think he's kind of undervalued in NFL circles for everything that he does. Greedy Williams came on fast last year and then struggled with health as the year went along last year. But he and Denzel Ward, they hope to be very formidable going forward, and then what they can be on those corner islands. And then Grant Delpit, what a gift. What a gift Grant Delpit is. He looks incredible. I can't believe the Browns got him in the second round. I loved him at LSU. I love the potential. He's shining right away. He just looks the part. Hopefully this can be kind of an equal exchange. Delpit can be a Hall of Famer, and that can be the exchange for us giving you Joe Burrow.
We'll take it. Believe me, that worked out pretty well. Let me back up on that thing you said about Jarvis for just a second, because ordinarily that face of the franchise stuff is reserved for quarterbacks, and Baker Mayfield is certainly a high-profile guy. Where does Baker fit in? It was an off year last year, so what do you expect from him?
I would tell you the organization has done everything in their power to put him in a position to succeed. From the hiring of Kevin Stefanski, who's going to run that wide zone scheme that Mike Shanahan and Kyle Shanahan and Gary Kubiak run. So that puts quarterbacks in an incredible position to succeed. They have spent on the offensive line. Jedrick Wills drafted in the first round out of Alabama. Jack Conklin they got in free agency. We talked about Odell and Jarvis. They go get Austin Hooper at tight end. Think about this, guys, and I challenge you to name a better 5 skill position players in the NFL on one team than Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham Jr., Austin Hooper, Kareem Hunt, and Nick Chubb. I don't know if it exists. So they've got all 5 of them. So if he's not good this year, then it's a much bigger problem.
Let me get a Bengals question in before we let you go. The impact that Joe Burrow has made in the early going on that franchise, certainly there were some things done in the offseason from a free agency standpoint that were certainly not like what the Bengals usually do. How would you rate the early impact of Joe Burrow before he even plays a game?
It's interesting. I've covered Joe since he was in high school at the Plains High School in Athens. I've known him and his family for a very long time. I always felt like maybe people at Ohio State weren't aware of how great he was, and then he was kind of proved right with probably the greatest single season in the history of college football from a quarterback last year at LSU. And I would say that probably the impact he is having right now with the Bengals is similar to the early impact he had at LSU. Because what it did for a fan, the difference is, of course, your guys' fan base is spectacular, and the Bengals fan base is pretty tepid. But it has, I just can't properly even put into words what the drafting of Joe Burrow has done for the Bengals from an interest in their franchise standpoint and legitimizing them. And it's just been spectacular to have a Southeastern Ohio kid in Cincinnati quarterbacking the Bengals. It's been spectacular. I'm thrilled for the Bengals. I'm thrilled for Joe. They've drafted pretty well at quarterback, despite their lack of success. With Andy Dalton was a very good NFL quarterback for a long time, and Carson Palmer before that was very good. So they really lucked into one. They had one really bad down year, and sitting on a silver platter was an Ohio kid who's maybe had the best single season at a quarterback in the history of college football.
Bo Bishop, you can follow him on Twitter at Bo Bishop, B-E-A-U, Bishop. And, of course, he is on with James Laurinaitis up on the Fan 97.1 and also on 850 ESPN in Cleveland. Bo, really enjoyed the conversation. Thanks for the time. Stay safe, and we'll be in touch.
You guys do the same. My pleasure, guys.
Bo Bishop, right there in the thick of things, right outside of Brown's camp. Raptors have taken a 1-point lead. That game is about 3 minutes into the fourth quarter, 84-83 over the Nets in Game 1 of 4 in the NBA today. Ask us, which today is Ask Me, but you can ask Playboy Marty things. You can ask Paul O'Neill things. You can ask Josh Ward things since Hester's not here. We'll do Ask Us on our YouTube chat when we come back here. Hanging with Hester and Hanny, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hanging with Hester and Hanny.
Gotros Outdoor Power for all of your property maintenance needs. And right now, they're giving you a great deal from our friends over at Skag. When you buy a Skag Patriot Z, a Tiger Cat, a Cheetah, or a Turf Tiger at Gotros Outdoor Power, you'll get your choice of an Echo trimmer or blower absolutely free. And, of course, Skag is still offering 0% interest for 60 months. That's on all of your Skag ZTRs. If you're worried about leaving the house and going out to shop, you can do 100% of the sale over the phone. That includes the financing, and Gotros offers you free delivery to your home on all new equipment sales. Gotros Outdoor Power, for years serving the Gonzales area and now in Baton Rouge as well, for all of your property maintenance needs, your trimmers, your edgers, your blowers, and all of your Skag zero-turn mowers available. Largest parts inventory in the South. You're never going to have to worry about service after the sale. Gotros Outdoor Power, Airline at 74 in Gonzales, Airline at Industrialplex in Baton Rouge. At Gotros Outdoor Power, we make it easy.
Our listeners fire up their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
At All-Star Toyota, you get it all. If you're in the market for an all-new Toyota vehicle, come see our friendly and knowledgeable sales team at All-Star Toyota. Located in Baton Rouge at the corner of Airline and Goodwood, we've been serving our community since 2005 by offering a large selection of new Toyota cars, trucks, and SUVs. Get behind the wheel of your dream car and take a test drive at All-Star Toyota today.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
This is a house call. This is a follow-up appointment. This is a diabetes checkup. This isn't just more convenient care, it's more advanced care. This is innovating healthcare at Louisiana's #1 hospital, Auctioner.
I'm Jay Ducote. I grew up learning how to cook at LSU tailgate parties and right in my own backyard. And I created JD's Louisiana products to bring that Louisiana flavor to you at home for your backyard cookout. JD's Louisiana barbecue sauce, Louisiana molasses mustard, spicy and sweet barbecue rub, and more are available at your local supermarkets or by logging on to jducote.com/shop. Put in promo code CST for 25% off at checkout.
Hi, this is Chance Inman, President and Chief Operating Officer for Janney King Gulf Coast. Here are some ways to protect yourself and those around you from the coronavirus. Wash your hands often and thoroughly. Cover coughs and sneezes with your elbow. Disinfect high-touch surfaces regularly. Use non-contact methods for greeting others. And avoid touching your face. Following these steps, as well as social distancing, should help all of us stay healthy.
Janney King, the king of clean.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
It's a Wednesday edition of Game Time with Jimmy Ott and Ben Mintz. The guys are live from Snow's Seafood and Steak over in Gonzales. Come out from 6 to 8 p.m. and say hello or listen here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hangin with Hester and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and 1130 The Tiger.
We are brought to you by Richards Honda, home of the warm and fuzzy feeling, coming down the stretch here today. Jacob Hester will be back with us tomorrow. Some questions about in our YouTube chat about the capacity at Tiger Stadium. A number of SEC schools have announced their policies in anywhere from 20 to 30%. And my guess is, I haven't been told this, but the phasing of Louisiana has got to be addressed, I think, before LSU is going to put their statement out. We'll see. But it very much does matter, as the governor has said, whether Louisiana is in phase 1 or phase 2 when the football season comes around. Again, if the governor makes his decision at the Monday before the Friday, which is next week, when his latest executive order carries through, that's next Friday. Next Monday, again, if he follows the same script, he'll tell us what'll happen on the 28th, whether they'll extend phase 2, how long they'll extend it. Could be 2 weeks, could be 3 weeks, could be talking about a move to phase 3. We'll find that out on Monday. I think once we find that out, then LSU can act with more information. If he extends phase 2 for 3 more weeks, that puts you a week to the opener. And I think that's going to spell a very difficult situation for LSU to try to put fans in the seats if you're still in phase 2. But we'll see. That's what's coming up there. We had questions about the Derrius Guice story. We did that at the top of the show. A very disturbing report in USA Today about 2 women that have accused Guice of rape. His attorney has come out and denied the story. The part of the story that said LSU did not do their investigation properly when it was reported has been refuted by the school. We went through that statement at the top of the show, and so now we will wait to see what the next step is in that. But we covered all that at the top of the show with the Derrius Guice story. It's an awful story all the way around, and I'm not going to jump to any conclusions one way or the other than to say the thorough investigation has got to be done in every facet of that case. And where LSU is concerned, especially in the reporting, if the follow-up was not done, then that's as serious as offense as you can probably come up with in this case. So we'll see what happens next with that. National Aviation Day. I don't know where you guys come with this. Worst flight you ever took. One of those ones from Salt Lake City. I flew from Salt Lake City to Baton Rouge once, or Salt Lake City to New Orleans once. And everybody's probably been on one of these things. It just bounces all over the place. It was awful, and it was following about a 5-hour unscheduled layover in Salt Lake City. It was just not a good day. Also, National Aviation Day. Have you ever piloted an airplane? No, never piloted an airplane, but I did something that scared the hell out of me that I wouldn't do again. I took on one of my trips out west, I took a flight over the Grand Canyon. This was one of those flights you take. We were in Las Vegas, and you could take a tour. And the plane took off from Vegas, and it flew over Hoover Dam, and then it flew around the entire rim of the Grand Canyon and flew down into the base of the canyon and landed. Now, at that point, this is an 8-seater plane. At that point, you could either get off the plane and get on a burro and climb back to the top of the canyon. You could get back in the plane and you could go back to Las Vegas. Well, guess which one I picked? So there
back
were
to Vegas.
Right. So there were 8 of us on the plane, me, the pilot, and 6 other people. The other 6 people got off the plane and got on a donkey and started going up the Grand Canyon. I got in the plane with the pilot and went back to Vegas. And
I'm with you, Charlie.
I'm okay. So I'm sitting right next to him, and it's one of those planes where there's a steering wheel on both sides, but one person controls both of them. And it wasn't a long flight, thankfully. But all I kept thinking was, this guy has a heart attack. I got to land the plane. And that probably would not have gone well. So, no, I've never piloted an airplane. That's probably the closest thing that ever has. Ask us, what is the driving pet peeve that drives you crazy? People that get even in the passing lane with the people that are not in the passing lane and just sit there.
Left lane drivers.
The passing lane is for passing.
Correct. 100%.
Come on. Let's see. Ask us, National Soft Serve Ice Cream Day. Favorite place to get an ice cream cone? Zesto's in Omaha. That was always priority when we went up there. I mean, it's Barrett's boiled corn and Zesto. Okay, I mean you had to make the trip. Let's see. Ask us, how about some Whitney bumper music? I think that's all been outlawed here. Nope.
YouTube.
Yeah, that's
YouTube killer.
Not gonna happen. What else am I missing here? Ask us, National Aviation Day. Got through that. Okay. Well, we're just about out of time. Let me give you one more score. Raptors got a 6-point lead over the Nets with about 6 minutes to go. Playboy Marty, you got a pick tonight. The show's going to Snows in Gonzales, so you got a pick for the rest of the day.
I do. I have Celtics -4.5. Locked that in this morning, and fun prop bet: Jason Tatum over 27.5 points. I think he's going to kill it tonight.
Gordon Hayward being out doesn't bother you?
Not at all.
He's good, you know.
He's very good, but just the Philly doesn't have the perimeter defense to keep up with Kemba, Jaylen Brown, and Tatum. Hayward hurts, but yeah.
Okay. Jazz Nuggets, that was probably the most entertaining game of the first 8. That game 2 goes here in about 5 minutes, in the Mavs and the Clippers tonight. Again, the Raptors with a 6-point lead with 6 minutes to go. Thanks to all our guests today. Jacob Hester will be back with us tomorrow. For Josh Ward, for Playboy Marty, for Paul O'Neill, I'm Charles Hanagriff saying thank you and good afternoon. Stay tuned for After Further Review. That's next here, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.